Hello, hello. Is Stunt in here yet? I'm kind of jealous. A pic of me comes up as a terrorist on Star Trek. That sounds kind of awesome. I want to have a picture when I'm Googled on Star Trek. Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so tonight I am actually going to do my intro, and I'm gonna get an intro down where I can keep it short because I'm a talker, as you guys know, and if Malia's not here, I could probably do an intro for 30 minutes straight, just 30 minutes straight, nonstop talking the entire time, just full rant. It's a problem. But happy to see everybody. Thursday nights are normally a little bit more calm. Some less traffic. I think it's getting closer to the weekend, but that's a good thing. That means that there's time to be more personal with everybody. So as you're coming in, no, she has to drive over here. The the studio isn't in home, so I would like it to be. I'm thinking of digging tunnels under my house. And have you guys ever seen like personal or at home tunneling where people just start digging straight down into the ground? I'm thinking of tunneling under my house to build a studio. What do you think? To me, it sounds like a really good idea. Let me find a picture. So, actually, I think it's called tunneling. Oh no, that's not it. Shoot, what is it? It's at home tunneling. Shoot, we've looked at this before. I know we've looked at this before. Hang on. I got to figure out. I mean, that's fine. I guess I could. Like, look at this. People do this stuff right under their house and they don't tell anybody. They don't get approvals. They literally just dig holes into the ground under their house. It's called something and I can't remember the name right now. So what is at home tunneling called? Hobby tunneling? Okay. Hang on here. Okay, yeah. So this is it. So, okay. So, all right. So this is real, you guys. People really do this. And I guess it's called hobby tunneling. I thought it was called something different than that. But people that enjoy digging holes or whatever will just start digging underneath their house. And I want a studio in my home, so I was thinking of starting to tunnel under my house and build a giant studio under my house. But look at this, like, look at that. That's incredible. That's somebody who just did that under their house, man. Incredible. Yeah. Knowing my luck though, my house would collapse on top of me. But I actually have pretty good luck, but I still don't know if I wanna risk it. So, anyways, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome to the True Crime Talk Show. My name's Brendan, and
I'm Malia.
yes, and she is Malia, and welcome to the show. So you can find us everywhere podcasts can be found, literally everywhere, all over the world. It's interesting because in a couple different countries, we've actually made the top 5, which is awesome. And we appreciate all of you who have an interest in watching us and our madness on here. So thank you all. And if you want to check us out, there's 2 different places that you can check us out. Shoot. I've been meaning to upload all the newest videos to the True Crime Talk Show. I don't think I uploaded last week's or this week's. I need to do that. So if you watch the True Crime Talk Show, I apologize for that delay. I need to get in the habit of uploading them daily. But we have 2 podcasts out there. We have Thought Riot, the True Crime and Criminal Culture podcast, which is this one right here that you see on the screen. And then we have the True Crime Talk Show, the one and only. And that is going to be our live shows. So if you're listening to this right now and you've never listened to Thought Riot, the True Crime Talk or True Crime Criminal Culture, hop on YouTube and you can check it out on there. You don't have to. You can swap back and forth, but you get a more clear understanding of the topics that we're digging into. Like tonight, we just previewed fog data science. Not hog, not blog, but fog data science. And Malia led us through talking into that a little bit and gave us a rundown of kind of what it is. And then we're going to dig into it and get our hands dirty on here and follow that up. So welcome everybody. Make sure you do all the podcast things, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And the most important thing, I mean, comments and likes are pretty important, like really important. But I would say the most important thing is that notification button. A lot of people really enjoy being here while we're live, and we enjoy it too. And to make sure that you're doing that, you can hit that notification button. Make sure if you're on a phone, you got to hit it. Then when you're on a computer, you got to hit it again. And if you have a tablet, you got to hit it again, because each one of those, for whatever reason, YouTube hasn't figured out how to make them one acceptance of notification go across all devices. So make sure you do that on there. And then if you're on social media, that's a guaranteed alert. Okay. So every time we have a premiere coming out, gosh, my fingers hurt because I did tattoo removal. Every time we have a video coming out, we market that video and let everybody know at least a couple hours ahead of time that we are about to go live. We put it on Patreon, on Twitter, aka X. We put it on Discord. We put it on Instagram. I mean, I miss Instagram sometimes, but we put it on YouTube too. So if you are on any of those, we are /Thought Riot Podcast, except for Twitter, aka X. We are /Thought Riot Pod. And we will get into it. Is Stunt over here yet? Did Stunt make it over? Stunt was saying that if you Google their name, a picture pops up of them as a terrorist in Star Trek.
That's pretty messed up.
What do you mean? That's awesome. I want that.
Oh,
I want someone to Google me and then like a picture of me pop up in Star Trek.
Wait. Okay, you're saying they're talking about their legal name?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, or their name.
I don't know.
I thought you were talking about like something about the topic we're talking about.
No, but yes, I am burning off tattoos. I've had quite a few sessions on my fingers because, as you guys all know, I am a salesman, and I wear a suit and a tie to work. So, tattoos still aren't regularly accepted, and so it's just a good idea. If I ever want to...
They're accepted as long as the suit and the tie cover them. If the suit and the tie don't cover them...
Yeah, that's not really accepted, though.
Yeah, if it's under...
Well,
dude, you know
then
how
they
many...
don't know they're there, so they're not accepting them. They're just unknown.
Right.
So tattoos can't show. They aren't accepted.
Yeah, as long as they don't show.
Right.
As soon as they show, they're a problem.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. So my fingers are almost done. I've had probably like 7 sessions on them or 8 sessions on them, and are awful and horrible, and it is 10 times as painful as any tattoo could ever be. So, yeah. But my whole body's tattooed. So,
Well, what I noticed with your removal process is it's worse when you have kind of like a rookie tattoo or
we'll get into the house.
somebody who went deeper in some areas of your skin than others because like some of it is on your fingers is completely gone. And then you can see the areas where they went deeper into your
Yeah,
skin.
I mean,
and they're like still very dark, like very dark.
it won't focus on my hands. I think I have that setting turned off. We got to cover our faces. It will not focus on my hands.
You're too
Oh,
close.
there we go.
Yeah, you were.
Bam. There you go, you guys. That's where they're at. You can't even see what it says. So, okay. So we will get right into it, and I figured we will start with the obvious topic. I feel like we have a couple of true crime community topics out there right now. I wanted to talk on the harsh drama a little bit because it includes Steve Gonsalves. We are also going to talk about the 1122 King Road / Queen Road drama topic a little bit and what it all means. And then we're going to get into the technology, aka fog data, aka cloud data, aka cloud forensics, aka phone tracking,
aka Brian Koberger's field.
Yes,
His-
exactly.
His field of study.
Yes, that's where I was going with that. So, all right, the 1122 stuff. Let me close my tunneling stuff here. I had it pulled up. Okay, here we go. Bam. All right, so King Road House in Moscow to be demolished December 28th, okay? Known as the King Road Can everyone see?
Yeah, zoom in. There you go.
Okay.
For us blind people out there.
Known as the King Road House, the residence where 4 University of Idaho students were killed last November will be demolished later this month. The off-campus house located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, was given to the university earlier this year. Ever since, the university has been set on tearing it down. In parentheses, it's a daily reminder of what happened there, said Jody Walker, Executive Director of Communications for the University of Idaho. Removing the house is helpful for the healing process for our Vandal community. The university has no plans yet on what the empty space will be used for, said Walker. It will be turned back to green space for the moment, and then decisions can be made down the line of what to do with the ground long term, she said. Victims Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves will be memorialized in the Vandal Healing Garden and Memorial that is being designed for the campus. This semester, students in the university's Art and Architecture program have been working on concepts, says Walker. That's really cool. Student designs will be sent onto a professional architect services, and then the university can start building the site, although it's not going to be at 1122. The demolition of the house is that next step, and then from there, we can really turn our full focus on the healing garden and memorial as that next step in the healing process, said Walker. The house will be demolished during the winter break so it doesn't disrupt students who live near King Road, said Walker. Oh, okay. The FBI accessed the King Road house to gather more data in late October and early November. Scans taken of the property could help the FBI create visuals that could be used in the trial, according to the press release. The defense team representing Brian Koberger, the suspect charged with the endings, will be getting 2 days to access the house to help prepare their case. A trial date has not yet been set. Koberger waived his right to a speedy trial. There is no deadline for when the trial has to take place, said Andrea Burkhart, a criminal defense attorney in Washington, who we love. There is a very large volume of discovery in this case. What? Okay. No, Burkhart said that?
Yeah, dude, it is overwhelming. Remember we talked about when they turned over their 51 terabytes of data
Okay, so you're talking total
and
discovery, including the
all the
electronic data.
documents.
You're right.
All of it
This
is
just
a lot. That doesn't mean there's a lot of actual
I
evidence
mean, all of it
against him.
isn't a lot, but
It's a
no,
lot
it's
of
not.
volume.
No, you're confusing the two. So
I'm
physical
not.
evidence is not what she's talking about.
She
She's
said
talking about like the
discovery.
pictures and stuff.
She said there's a very large volume of discovery, meaning anything and
Yeah.
everything that was included in the discovery.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that, but uh, the amount of physical evidence is nothing.
Yeah, I understand that, but
So what they're talking about is pictures and documents or
yeah,
recordings.
yeah. And any paperwork that came from analyzing the physical
Yeah, and I
evidence.
personally wouldn't classify it as a lot. I actually still think it's not that much, but I mean, I don't know because I don't have eyes on it. I just know what I've looked at other cases and stuff like that. And I think that it sounds like a lot because of the data that not the data, the recording systems that they use, the 3D scans are very giant files. So it looks like a lot. But anyways, I'll finish this. Sorry. There's a very large volume of discovery in this case already, and much of it is technical evidence. There we go. I just had to keep reading. That requires review by experts, which can be very time consuming, said Burkhart. The delay is likely because the defense is trying to review the state's case in order to plan its own investigation, said Burkhart. It's difficult to get a sense of how long that will take while information is still coming in, said Burkhart. Demolition will begin at 7 a.m. on December 28th and could take several days, said Walker. Media will have access to view the demolition, but crews working on the site will not be available for interviews, according to the press release. Interesting. What do you think about that?
I just find it so odd that they want to tear the house down so bad. Like, I don't know, I don't understand it. Like, when I heard who was it? Was it the dean of students who gave an interview on the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary? I think it was. He was like, you know, essentially, it was like a reminder of the trauma for everybody. But the thing is that house, to me, and I know a lot of other people, seeing it every day, while it would be like, "Yeah, that's sad, man." It would not affect my life the way they're acting like it affects everyone's lives.
Yeah.
It's just a house. What actually happened is what's horrible. Like, it's just a freaking house.
Yeah.
Like, why do you need to tear it down before the trial? Like, they gotta get it done to be able to build this memorial, but isn't that memorial planned for, like a field? Not the house, where the house was.
Yeah.
And I think Steve had a good point, which hopefully with the Pharaoh scans, they covered this, but he made a good point that you can't really tell without the actual house being there and being there in person how you can see into the windows, the angles, like walking up to the physical house and in real life is different.
Um,
Looking through the windows, seeing what somebody who would have, stalked the house would see, that kind of thing.
yeah.
I know you don't agree with me.
I don't. I don't. We just have a different opinion on this topic because I see the value in the electronic evidence around the location, the crime scene, and I understand why they're saying it's not a big deal. Like I just get it. I get it. But I'm a different person. And I'm saying that with the understanding that all people are different. Okay. I'm the type of person, and I'm going way too psychology here, but I'm gonna finish it anyways. But I'm the type of person that I have an insane imagination. So when someone can tell me a story of what is going on, and then if I have images to fill the gaps of color, location, style, things like that, I don't need to be on site to get the same feeling and sense. But I'm saying that understanding that everyone has a different level of imagination and the visual imaging that they can see in their head. We've talked about it multiple times on here, that it's a scale, right? People are a scale of just how good of an image they can see in their head, you know? And like if you're sitting here and I ask you all to think of an apple, think of it in your imagination, think of the color, turn that apple around in your head, think of, you know, all the details of it, how there's multiple colors on it. I mean, if you have a really good imagination and the ability to create a physical or a mental image, some people can even smell what it smells like when they're looking at that image in their head, just from scent memory and things like that. So for me personally, I don't need the house. For me personally, I understand why they don't want that house there, because it looks awful. They made it look as horrible as they could possibly make it look, with boarded up windows and everything else. And
Yeah.
it's literally just a stain on the community. And I get that. I understand that. But I also understand that there could be jury members that really need to see that house to understand if they believe one person could do this. If they did do it, where could they possibly sit? What windows could they possibly look in, based on the easy access up the hill sitting in the upper corner? Who's the most likely person that whoever the suspect is was stalking and looking at? You know what I mean? Like, those details are details that are going to
Yeah.
be hard to comprehend without going on site.
And
So
it's not only that, it's also the whole area around the home, like the streets, like seeing the way that the PCA claims Koberger came in and circled around and drove out, and what he would have been looking at when looking at the house when going, you know, behind the house. And it's so many things. Like, how well can you see the house from behind the tree line? How can you see through any windows from behind the tree line? Can you see
yeah,
through the windows driving by at night? Like, there's a lot of details that may matter to the jury in
yeah,
my mind. And I just see it as like nobody is moving past this. Okay, if they really have some deep emotional trauma attached to it, they're not getting past it until the trial's over. They're
yeah,
not. So why is the house such a big deal? And it's honestly kind of gross to me that the image of the university and the community, and not having to look at something bad, just like we don't like to look at homeless people. We don't like to look at the bad things and the ugly things. We want to cover it up and make it pretty and pretend nothing bad happened. Um, that bothers me. All of that bothers me. Um, when there's actual value in keeping the house, and I just don't know why they want to tear it down so bad until the trial. Like, just why not let the trial happen?
yeah. I mean, it's already been up for a super long time. So I'm saying that okay, if it's me there, things don't bother me. Nothing. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what kind of crime happened there. I don't care if it's the worst location with the worst crimes ever. There is nothing out there that's going to make me feel a certain type of way in a situation like that. But what's important to me is, do I think there are people out there that will have issues of that? Do I think there are people out there that will walk by and or drive by that house and feel some type of negative thing about that? And yes, I think those people are out there. Then it just comes down to, in my head, okay, then what's most important? Is it more important to let the community get over this crime and everything, by removing any visual reminders in the area, or is it more important to keep it there for the case and letting the jury visit it or whatever? And to be honest, I don't have I'm not committed one way or the other. All I know in life is what works for me, and for me, it doesn't matter to me if the house is there. It doesn't matter if I'm a jury member. I don't need to see the house, but I'm also the type of person that doesn't want you could tell me what happened in a crime and I've already got the image in my head. Then you could try and hand me crime scene photos and I'm the type of person that's going to be like, "Nah, I'm good."
Oh, yeah. By the way, I did not like your example about imagination because I have a great imagination. I just can't see things in my head. And I have smell memory 100%. That's probably one of my best memories. But yeah, I just can't picture things in my head.
Okay.
I'm creative. I have an imagination.
Yeah. I don't think
But
imagination has anything to do with creativity. Like when I grew up, people
yeah,
were
it
always
does.
no, when I grew up, people were always like, "Oh, you just have a really vivid imagination to be able to remember this or remember that." Like it was always talked about in connection with like visual imagery in your head. So I think creativity is different than imagination. Or am I wrong?
I mean, yeah, they're probably different. I still have an imagination. Like
Okay.
it just because I can't see things in my head doesn't mean I don't have an imagination.
Okay.
But tying this back, I don't think how good your imagination I understand how that could be helpful in trying to get a picture of the crime scene in your head and work it all out and everything. But at the same time, if you can't see it in person, you may get key details wrong.
I I mean, I don't think I would, as long as I had all the information in front of me. But I hear you. Like I'm not saying that people that want it there are wrong. I am not saying that. I'm saying that I very clearly understand both sides. But if you're asking my personal opinion, I don't need the house there. But I get it. My next question in my line of thinking, in my analytical line of thinking here when I'm thinking about it is, okay, is the house even usable with the amount of walls they tore down, floors they tore up, things like that?
Yeah.
We just don't know the current state of the house too. So I'm just trying to think of all the possibilities of why, because I think it's strange. I don't think there's any way out of the fact that it's strange that they were so quick to do it. And I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about the fact that when they first brought it up months and months ago to tear down the house. I think that's strange. It is not common in a case where they're quick to tear this thing down. That's not common, but it doesn't make it wrong when something's not common also.
Yeah. It doesn't
So,
necessarily make it wrong. It just makes it suspicious.
yeah, I
It makes
agree.
you wonder why it's so important to them. Wait,
Yeah,
I forgot. I
I
can't be off
agree.
to the side because people can't see me.
I have no idea what the reason for tearing up floors and walls are. My assumption at that time, and as we have evolving opinions, right? As we dig into things and whatnot, my assumption at that time was that they noticed that there's a problem with only having 113 pieces of physical evidence. And in that problem, they see something that a defense attorney can exploit. Okay. And if I was a defense attorney, which I'm not, but if I was, that is absolutely something that I would target and beat the heck out of in front of a jury and be like, this is a quadruple passing away and you got 113 pieces of evidence when nationally the average per homicide for an unsuspected suspect is over 200 pieces. So in my opinion, in this situation, there should have been, with 2 separate crime scenes, bare minimum 400 to 800 plus pieces of physical evidence that was gathered at this crime scene. But we have 113. So then the question is your police officers who did this investigation incompetent? Or are you telling me that the crime scene was so controlled, so precise, so intentional that you have one person who you're claiming is Brian Koberger went inside the house in 10 minutes, did this crime, and managed the crime scene in such a way that you guys were only able to gather 113 pieces of evidence? Like, that's a good argument. If I was sitting in the jury box and a defense attorney said that, I would have a hard time not being like, oh, burn. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's 8 times that's divided by 8 of what they should have. Okay. They have half of a single, on average, the amount of physical evidence they have is half of what the expected single homicide with an unknown suspect is. Half. Less than half.
No. Okay, so I guess it is interesting to look back at other cases to see how quickly a house was torn down. In the case of Sharon Tate, I'm assuming that's what this is talking about, right? Because I saw Plumbing ask that and I got very curious. Gosh dang it. Cookies. Always asking
Well,
about
while you're looking for
cookies.
that, I think it is important to identify, right? Because I hear you guys. We have an overwhelming amount of people in the chat right now that believe that this house needs to stay up, okay? And I understand why too. I understand that people, especially in this case, have a lack of trust in this current case specifically, in this police department specifically, in this town specifically. And there's a lot of people in here that want to be able to see it with their own 2 eyes so that they don't have to depend on technology. However, I personally don't believe that they would manipulate that technology. That's just me personally, but I understand where that need for verification or validating that comes from also. And I do think there's benefit to that. I think there is some benefit. I don't know if it's, in my opinion, worth keeping the house up, but I do understand there's a benefit in taking people to see it with their own 2 eyes so that they're not having to bite the hand that feeds them. Oh, hey, check out our data. You know what I mean? Then there's already
Okay.
a socially constructed expectation that's seated deep within us. When someone shows you something, you already are more likely to feel like you need to agree with that narrative based on the person who's giving it to you. Sales tactics, I know, but it's true. Okay. And there are people who are not likely to, agree to that. There are actually people who are more likely to disagree to that based on character traits and background and history and all these other things, all these unimportant things right now. But that creates a bias in the case. Whereas when you take a jury to the crime scene, to a location, to see it themselves without having a hand that feeds them, there is no bias. So there is benefit in that.
Okay, so the Tate House stayed up for decades. Decades it stayed up and it sat isolated for 2 decades, almost 3, until Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails bought it in 1992. Eventually, after talking with Sharon's younger sister, he realized his intention for buying the house was kind of messed up. It was a fascination with serial killers, and he was just like, yeah, time to leave it behind. So he turned over the keys in 1997, and it was demolished. And
Mhm.
the new owners bought it, and they demolished it and built a new home there. And I don't believe it is the same number anymore as far as address, which was like 10050 CeeLo Drive. I believe it's something else now. But yeah, it stayed up empty, empty
Yeah.
for decades.
Yeah, but there's so many factors that go into that.
You're right.
How visible was that house to the community? Was it set back where no one could see it? You know what I mean? Like, how easy is it to demolish and get to? How is it time versus value? Things like that. So, like, I think all that comes into play when we're talking about this. And I'm just getting at, I understand why that community wants to tear it down. I get it. I understand it.
I
I
understand it too. I just don't know why it has to be done so quickly. Like, I don't get why they can't just wait till trial.
I
Get it done with and then tear it down. Like,
I get it. I get it. But that goes back to, are they going to actually use the house even if it stays up?
good point.
Is it gonna be used? Because both the prosecution and the defense don't care if it's up. It doesn't matter to them. So do you think if we kept it up that they're likely to take jury members to
Well,
the house? The jury doesn't control the trial.
I know that the defense usually does not want the jury to walk through a crime scene
Well, I mean,
because of the
I don't know if I would
emotional.
say that.
From what I've seen, from what attorneys I've seen criminal defense attorneys say is that usually, yeah, you don't really want them walking through the crime scene. Not because you don't want them to have the facts, it's because the emotional connection of being there, of being where this happened, can sometimes, bias them a little bit, slant them in a direction. I don't know about
Yeah.
bias them, but slant them in a direction.
Yeah, I get that. I think that really comes down to the fact that if someone's guilty or not, though, because if they are truly guilty of a crime and the defense attorney is there to do the best they can, and it's obvious they're guilty, that's different, in my opinion, based on the current evidence we have, not the evidence there could be, but the current evidence we have. Um, I think that taking somebody to a crime scene could also benefit a defendant.
It could in certain circumstances.
Yeah, and I do think this could be one of them. I just don't see them using that because they don't want it up anymore. But if I was the defense, okay, I personally the angle I would use is, make it super dark in there and then tell these random people to just try and walk through a room. Now, try and walk through the house on two different levels, finding your way and controlling two different crime scenes, and having an unknown amount of people in the house and do that in this amount of time. You know what I mean? Like there are ways to create angles that could benefit a defendant or a prosecution. And hey, what's up, Cult Rejects?
Yeah, I agree with you. Emotions trump facts a lot of times these days. J Ray actually agrees with you
Yeah.
that there's no point at this point.
Well, that's a shame. You're not supposed to agree with me.
Yeah. I mean, I see value more in, like I was saying earlier, like even if inside the
My
home
stripes are
is
dancing.
drastically different. Um I still think that going around the outside matters, to see what, like, if the house isn't there, you can't tell where a window was, like, and if you could see to it through the trees. Also,
Yeah.
the I know that I your whole thing about them testing the acoustics actually possibly being for Bethany, not Dylan, because she was on the first floor, was interesting to me. And as a juror, I would be curious to have one juror be in the bottom floor and have another one be on the second floor and see if they could hear anything like footsteps.
Yeah.
I would be curious. Like if I was sitting down there and there were other jurors walking upstairs, could I hear footsteps? Could I hear any scuffling? Could I hear like anybody talking?
Yeah. I think these are all great arguments. I do. I think that there's incredible reasons behind it, but oh, I didn't even realize that's what you meant. So we're both wearing white stripes. Mine are vertical, yours are horizontal. That's funny.
It was totally by accident.
But yeah, it definitely was. So I see your point. I get it. I just think that it goes back to if this house would even be used. Does this house benefit the defense? Does this house benefit the prosecution? I don't know if it does. You know what's interesting is at least in the PCA, all the evidence, all of it, except for the sheath, okay? That is the one piece of magical evidence that they have that is not pre-crime. Or I'm sorry, not pre-crime, non-crime scene related.
Wait, what?
So they only have one piece of evidence that's crime scene related. Everything else is non-crime scene related. Everything in the PCA, the current state of the evidence.
Okay, so in the PCA, you're saying the knife sheath is the only evidence they have from the actual crime scene.
Yep.
Well, they have a latent shoe print, but we don't know anything about that. Like
Yeah.
literally nothing. So
Yeah, I mean to the defendant, tied to the defendant. I guess they could have proven it was Koberger's. I just doubt that because he doesn't wear Vans, but that's an assumption.
yeah, and
We know he doesn't wear Vans.
I saw some people saying that Nikes have a diamond pattern. But
No, they don't.
but okay, there may be other shoe brands that have the diamond pattern, but do they have an arch or are they all flat like Vans? Because Vans is gonna make it's not gonna have any arch. It's completely flat.
Yeah, dude.
So
So you could tell very clearly. And if somebody there, this is a college, okay? If you saw a shoe print and you are living in or working in a college area, you're going to know what the bottom of a Vans shoe looks like. I feel like those are one of the main shoes that are worn in those demographics. And you should be able to look at that. And it says Vans style diamond, shoe print or whatever. There are no Nikes, okay? And you guys please prove this statement wrong. And I'm totally okay with being wrong, but I'm a shoe person. Like shoes are my thing. I have 0 Nikes out of all the Nikes I have and all the Vans I have, okay? All the Vans and Nikes I have, none of them are even remotely close. None of them.
I
None
have
of them.
something in my eye. Might have to go look in the mirror.
None of them are remotely close.
Let me see the pattern. Oh, I can see it now.
This is a very, very,
it's
specific
distinct
type of shoe print.
It is distinct. You're right. It absolutely is.
So, I think if we're just strictly talking about the print, I don't think there's anything there. But look, that's not saying it's not possible to be Koberger, okay? I see most of the people chatting are people who have been here with us before, and you guys know how we feel about it. We aren't trying to prove that Brian Koberger is guilty or innocent. We're trying to focus on this investigation, and whoever the suspect is at the end is what it is once we get to that point. But that diamond pattern, if Brian Koberger was guilty and he was trying not to be seen as being guilty, all he would have to do is wear a pair of Vans and get rid of them.
Right. It could,
because
yeah.
they're common. They're probably either Vans or Converse are probably the most common shoes at a college town.
Absolutely. And we saw like so many pictures of everyone around them and the victims themselves wearing Converse or Vans, like so many. Um, this cracked me up. Mike said it's a terrible shoe to wear if you step in dog dung frequently. You're
No,
right.
I mean,
It
that is
is.
awful. It is. And you have to get like a flathead screwdriver to get it all out. But gum is worse.
Oh yeah, gum is bad. But I also wanted to say, Heather, you calling your dog a pit bull hippopotamus? It just tells me exactly what that dog looks like.
Yeah.
Like
A big old roundy.
yeah, it's cute.
Is it brown? Like what's that
I
candy
thought
called?
gray. I thought gray.
What's that candy called?
What candy?
The one that's brown and
A Tootsie Roll?
Tootsie Roll. Yep. Is it a Tootsie Roll? What? I just forget things. Maybe I have that one disease where you forget things. I don't know.
What? Like the old like dementia or like what is it called? Alzheimer's?
Yep, that.
Man,
But
Alzheimer's is not a good disease.
it is what it is. So I wanted to answer a couple things, okay? Since we're on this technology topic, and then we will go back over into the technology aspects of things. But you guys, it sounds like this is going to be demolished, okay? So the only thing that we can hope for is that the defense and the prosecution got everything they needed from that house, okay? That's the only thing I can hope for. I'm glad the defense was able to get in there last, because if I was the defense and I am questioning the validity of the evidence gathered, like it sounds like Ann Taylor has been and is doing, I would get in there and I would verify their findings with what I'm seeing, right? And I think Ann Taylor is skilled enough to know to do that, especially with her history of cracking down on dirty cops and unfair trials and everything else. So I'm going to have faith in them to do that in this situation, because there's nothing we can do. They are not going to pull back this time. If that date is already set, that date is already set. All right. I will be blown away if they pull back. It would be kind of funny if somebody like got out there and what is this?
What?
And if someone was like blocking the bulldozers from
But we did get confirmation. Oh. So we did get confirmation that the defense is going back to the house, though, which we were talking about last night, because somebody had an inside source and we were like, well, it makes sense for that to be happening, and I always thought that made sense, but I'm gonna verify. I'm not gonna just trust that when you have an inside source you won't disclose, so
Yeah.
at least we know. And honestly, it's a good thing that they're doing that they're going into the house. And I'm curious what the defense is gonna do. Or are they gonna run their own acoustic testing? I mean, if the FBI cut out more walls or floors, like they can't really do anything about that,
JLR is going to chain himself to the house. That's super funny. That's what I'm wondering is going to happen. Is someone literally going to take it that far because of how much emotion is cast on this case? Dude.
JLR is going to do that for clout.
Oh, probably.
If you have seen the video of him behind Alex Murdaugh, where he's like,
dude, I should show it, is what I should
you
do.
should. He is a clout demon. Like he is the JLR is highest tier in his own league of clout demon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That video had me on the floor dying. Like,
Yeah,
I could not compose myself after seeing that.
I know. It's
It's
super
so
funny.
funny.
It really, really, really is.
I agree with you, J. Ray, that this is a whole different house since they took all the furniture out, cut walls and floors out. And that's why we were really questioning the acoustic testing. But then we kind of looked back into the science of it and, the little hammer machine and how they almost have like a sonar machine. I'm curious, and I get it will be slanted, but it's not the same house. You're absolutely right. But that's why I wondered if Brendan was right, that maybe it was to see if noise travels very easy to Bethany Funk's room or very easily outside. Like, how far does noise travel outside of the home? Because they have that camera footage from like 50 feet from Xana's room. And hey, AR Hayes, right there.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, 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 I gotcha. Oh, no.
Whoa. You're not sharing it
I
either.
know, I got it,
It
I
was
got
so
it, I got
loud.
it. I was just trying to get it a little bit bigger, okay? So, hang on here.
You can't zoom in on this at all?
No,
Ugh.
I know.
Twitter sucks like that, man.
I know. Okay, so look, guys, this where my mouse is, okay, is LJR or yeah, JLR. So
The bald head behind Alex
yes,
Murdaugh.
this is LJR, and so just watch that, okay? Ready? This is hilarious, and if JLR is watching, this is totally not shots fired, but it is hilarious.
It's super funny.
If you're gonna do this, you need to make sure you don't get caught, bro.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, are you guys ready? Ready?
We're ready.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for just,
The mic work, or you're not speaking into it?
just
Speak a little loud. Speak a little loud.
good afternoon. I just want to thank everybody for giving me a chance. Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for just,
The mic work,
He
or you're not
does.
speaking into it?
Oh my
Speak a little
god.
loud. Speak a little loud.
good afternoon. I just want to thank everybody for giving me a chance. Good afternoon.
Oh, so bad.
I want to thank everybody.
Such a clout monster, man. It's real. No, this is real.
It is 100% real.
Here, I'll repost it again, so it's at the top of
Yeah.
our Twitter. You
Yeah,
guys.
if you go to our Twitter, Thought Right Pod, which I think Stormos is Tara in the chat.
Mhm.
She sent that to us or tagged us in it. And yeah, we'll repost it. It'll be at the
It's
top.
super funny. And again, if JLR is watching this, it's not shots fired, but you got caught, bro.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, super funny. Oh man,
He
it had
had
me
to be
rolling.
he had to be in that shot.
Yeah, he did. Look at and if you're gonna do that, like, don't try and pretend like you're not. That makes it worse. Just
Yeah.
be out front and open about it. I would totally
Yeah, be like this. Yeah.
No, I would point at the camera and be like, you know what I mean?
Be
So
super-
they know what I'm doing, and I'm not trying to be like,
I would pose. I would just be like, yeah. Like photo bombing. Like the fact that he doesn't want it to be known
I
just
know,
makes it so much more funny.
I know. It's hilarious. It really is. Okay, so I want to go into the drama, and I haven't pulled it up. I don't know where to pull it from, but I'm just gonna touch on it real quick, okay? And again, not shots fired again, but it has to do with the community. So we talked briefly about the conversation with Harsh and Steve Gonsalves, okay? The Gonsalveses came out and tore him a new one.
Yeah.
Like, came at him.
Was it on their Facebook?
I think so. I can try and find it.
You
Hang
should
on.
pull it up. I didn't get to read it yet. I know that it happened because I saw Harsh's community post about it. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of drama.
I had a feeling, man. I had a feeling, though. Is this it?
Yes, there you go.
Okay. So, bam, here we go.
Now, Steve is supposedly the one that Harsh talked to. So,
I wanted to address a YouTube video brought to my attention today by a foreign creator who claimed to have received death threats due to his content. While I initially tried to be helpful, it seems his claims may have been a ploy for attention. We support all the victims associated with 1122 King Road residents. We have been threatened, but not by any of our girls' college friends. Individuals like this grifter tarnish the reputation of honest YouTubers, and their manipulative attempts to exploit victims' families should be condemned. Despite our family's stance against baseless content, he turned vague words around to create controversy. Twisting victims against themselves is unacceptable, and we want to be clear. We stand united with all victims in this case. So, interesting.
yeah, I'm thinking that Steve expected the conversation to be kept private as well. I'm assuming Harsh did not ask, hey, can I use any of these messages in any of my videos? Which I feel like you should do. I feel like that's
I
the right
mean,
thing to do.
I don't think
When it comes to what, you don't agree with that?
I don't think that you need to ask for approval from somebody that has gone out of their way to be in front of a camera as much as he has. However, the way that those messages were read in front of the camera, I did not feel like they were portrayed how they were meant to. Now, when Harsh was reading them, because I did finally go back and watch that, there were a couple parts where I wasn't sure if there was supposed to be like a comma there, which would change the dynamic of who they're talking about. But I did not feel like Steve was saying that the victims' families were threatening him.
So if you're going to show messages, I feel like you need to show context surrounding those messages. I would personally ask permission because I just feel like that's the right thing to do for me to be able to sleep at night, especially when it comes to like victims, family members. Like right out the gate, honestly, I would probably just be honest and say, "Hey, I make content. You let me know what you want me to be able to include and not include, so that if they respond, they know what they're signing up for." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the ethical thing to do. When a reporter calls you, I mean, typically they tell you they're a reporter, and you know that everything you say is probably going to be on the record.
I mean, you sold the point why I don't think you need to say that
Oh,
too.
because you're right, because he already knows he's a YouTuber.
Yeah. Now,
So you should assume everything's on the record.
yep.
Yeah,
Now,
that's a good point.
my one concern is I think that the context should have been offered in multiple different forms. So because when I was watching that video, I'm telling you, I did not get the impression that one of the other victims' family members were threatening them. I did not get that impression at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's also important that if you're having a conversation with somebody, that there is like a clear distinction between on the record and off the record. If you're trying to be an ethical person who like isn't just looking for every juicy piece, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's actually trying to be fair to the person that's in front of you.
Yeah.
Especially considering they are victims, like in this
Yep.
situation.
No, I get it.
They lost their daughter. They like, I get that Steve has willingly come out and spoke in the media, but it was with intention. It was to drive attention to the case so that these kids don't get forgotten about, so that it's cared about,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that real information is out there. Because clearly whether you agree with things he said or not, or think that he spread misinformation or not, it seems like it is important to him to have the facts out there as he knows them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if that doesn't always work.
Yeah. No,
I
get it.
have a hard time like pinning any nefarious intentions on him, like he's intentionally doing anything bad. Like I have a hard
No,
time
that's
doing
not what
that.
I'm saying at
There's a lot
all.
of people who think that though, and you're all entitled to your opinions, but I just have a hard time doing that personally for myself.
Yeah, just to be clear, you guys, because I think Harsh could have presented that better doesn't mean that I think he did something wrong. Just because I think Steve was trying to, be there for somebody in what he felt like was a moment of maybe fear, uncomfortability, and bring reason to the situation and get on level terms with him, doesn't mean I think he was doing something bad. I don't think there were any mistakes in this situation. This isn't a situation where I feel comfortable saying this person is to blame. I can't do that, but I can say that I think that this would have gone over a lot smoother if multiple different options were given as context around these messages, is what I'm saying. I do not think that somebody's wrong in this. So just to be clear, I like Harsh. We love Harsh. I'm not, this is not a shots fired moment. I don't think anything was done wrong. I'm just saying that how I read those messages was not taken as a direct
representation of what was actually
of
said.
specifically the two surviving members' families. I do not think that.
So when you take that message and you don't have any of the context surrounding it, clearly he can say, yeah, this is about Dylan and Bethany, and a lot of people are just going to believe it.
Yeah.
My question immediately is, why was it just a screenshot of a singular message? I don't know. The context is important in my opinion.
The context is very important.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, next time if he plans on, using conversations with him and somebody, I think he should consider that instead of just posting, because then like nobody can come back and claim what they said was not what you're saying they said either.
Yeah.
Because you have the full context.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's why I'm saying is I just think that it could have been a better presentation. And look, you guys, I'm throwing myself under the bus all the time. I will say things that it could have been said in a much better way. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. And I am not saying something was done wrong, but I do think that when you're trying to present a narrative, it is super helpful to offer another narrative or a third narrative, because if you would have put a period in between the statement that was made and it said, yes, our family has been threatened before, period, and then moved on to a conversation about the surviving roommates, then that is a very different conversation. It is no longer these roommates families, we were threatened by these roommates. It is, yes, I feel you. We're on the same level. I've been threatened before, so I understand how you feel. And then the conversation continues about whatever, and then you move on to the roommates. You know what I mean?
So it doesn't sound like Harsh has showed the full context of the conversation.
Yeah, probably not.
But I know that's what the narrative is that he reached out to Steve and said he was being threatened, and that was Steve's response, was that they've been threatened before, their family has, the Gonzalez family has, and that DM and BF don't want anything to do with the case, and that they are being protected.
Yeah.
That's the narrative, but did he show the full conversation? Does he have like a screen recording scrolling through it, or screenshots going through every message?
I don't,
or just the message before and after. Like, yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but if he does, and it literally is his message saying like, hey, I've been getting threats, and that what Steve said, then okay.
No, I get it. I'm looking at the situation to see if there's any areas of opportunity here from the assumption that everything is true on both sides. Because remember, this could totally be a difference of opinion in the
Could be.
conversation and how it was presented. That's it. And that's truly what I think it was. I really do. Because of how Harsh read it, there were a couple spots in there where I was like, wait, that it felt like there was maybe a period missing or something was like a continuation of a sentence. And to be clear, I'm not saying he did that intentionally manipulative to make it seem like something it wasn't. I'm saying through text, you guys, I think anyone can relate here. How many times have you had a text message conversation with somebody where your context is not how it was being received? All the time. You can literally be fighting with someone and the other person on the other end thinks everything's all good and it's like a joking, context. So it sounds like something was just missed there. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, but it appears that Harsh said in his community post that he was supposed to do a live tonight. And so that's what I was expecting, but it looks like he canceled it and he's making a 14-minute video addressing it, where he plans on showing it. And that he feels that Steve misrepresented Dylan and Bethany, not him. Like, he didn't misrepresent what Steve said. Steve was misrepresenting the survivors, is how Harsh feels. But
I would just let it go.
If
Harsh
I don't know.
watches this, I'd just let it go. Causing a fight.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's
Steve's
entitled.
already got his lawyers, so I
Yeah.
just hope, if it goes down that direction, you got legal representation, because that would probably be the next step,
True.
I'm just thinking from a problem-solving point of view, So I no matter what, I would probably let it go just because there's no way to prove intent. And it'll just cause issues.
Yeah, no, he hasn't posted a video on this yet. It's supposed to come out tomorrow. But I see what you're saying. I'm sure he wants to defend his integrity, because having claims that you misrepresented a victim's family member's messages to you, because the way Steve says it sounds bad. The way he's saying it is like, he reached out to me for help and I was, trying to be nice and help him, and then he misrepresented my text messages. Like, that looks bad. So I understand Harsh wanting to defend his integrity if that's not what actually happened.
But the thing is,
there's two sides to every story.
It's not even
I get
that.
wanting to tell
Nothing
his
will
own.
ever be proved. Nothing. This situation can never be proved. Ever. Never. Because, again, someone, when you're talking through text, could have one context of the conversation and situation and what's being sent, and the other person can be receiving it very different. That's the downsides of having very serious conversations over text. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't see a win here, because no matter what, it is going to be, well, I said this and he meant this. The other person is going to say, I said this and he meant this, and nobody's going to come out on top, But again, I just want to be clear, because I saw a couple people post in here that I don't think Harsh was like manipulating the situation on purpose. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's what was going on here, and that's not the argument or the conversation at all. I think that there was somebody misrepresented somebody accidentally in a situation like this, because if it wasn't an accident, there wouldn't be this situation. So clearly there was a mistaken read of something. And when you're dealing with text message, whether through text of a phone or email, there's no way to understand with 100% certainty what's being said and what is meant. You know what I mean?
Okay, thank you, Ann. And you cleared that up, because I see people saying that Harsh already made a video, but when I go to his account, there's no video. But Ann said he already made one. It's just members only.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Harsh needs to leave it alone. Yeah, that may be a good idea. Maybe a good idea. Because yeah, fighting with a grieving father is probably not gonna just like end well, even if you're right, you know?
There's just no way to prove you're right. That's my point. Both
Yeah.
sides, they will not be able to prove they're right either way, you know. So, and
But
I
yeah.
I think it at least in my opinion, integrity is the most important thing when you're trying to build a mold of who your character is, you know what I mean? So that you never want to be seen as being aggressive in any situation, even if it's to prove your own intent in any situation. It starts causing a situation where people have a hard time wanting to talk to you, you know?
Yeah, and I really like Harsh.
Yeah.
He was our first creator spotlight, right? The first one?
Oh, I don't know.
Or he was one of the first ones at least. And we asked him some questions about why he was in true crime, what keeps him in it, and his responses were really good. I was like, "Man, those are really good reasons." Like he clearly has a lot behind what you see on camera. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, yeah. I think his intentions are usually good, like anybody's. But
Yeah, I
everybody, I don't know if you could even call it a mistake. I think the mistake was maybe just even talking about it.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think the mistake was talking about it, period. So,
Sometimes some things should just not be talked about.
well, I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think anything can be talked about. Literally anything can be talked about, but it's the way that it was talked about, the method that was used. You were talking about something that was very emotionally charged, and very a very specific emotionally charged situation of something horrible where you both have been threatened, okay? And then you're going out and he's asking Steve and talking to Steve about him being threatened. When you're doing that, you don't know what are the details surrounding him being threatened. So now Steve has an image in his head of what being threatened means, and then Harsh has an image of in his head of what being threatened means. So now when they're talking about what it was and what it meant to them, they each have their own personal opinion on what happened when they were threatened that they're talking about and relating that conversation back to, which already is going to cause issues because those are two separate situations. And, one person being threatened looked very different than the other person's, and it's not going to match. Those are just two different sized puzzles.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, that there's a way to talk about it, a way it could be presented. But the thing
There
is,
isn't a way except in person.
okay.
It's not something that I think can be done over text message.
Oh, okay. Well, see, what I think is that Steve didn't expect Harsh to make a video about it,
Oh, I
and
don't think
show the
so.
message, and that you don't think so. I think
Mm-mm.
that it was one that's out there on the internet now, and Harsh has quite a few subscribers. Like that doesn't look great on Steve saying something like that. Like, yeah, our family's been threatened, and those two, they're connected, and don't want to be a part of the case and are protected.
And yeah, I'm not willing to say that. I'm not willing to say that Steve's lying to.
No, I think that it's possible that could be it. Like, confiding in somebody and then like
No,
being like, "Oh, I
no,
don't want that public." You don't think so?
nope. That's just straight up lying. Steve's just lying if you think that's what happened. And I'm not going to say that. I do not think he's lying. I think that they just misunderstood each other.
Okay. You're probably right.
So I'm just not willing to say that. So the easiest thing is that they just misunderstood each other. But
I don't know why face to face is the only way though.
because you cannot understand emotional topics over a text message, that's where the miscommunication came from. They are miscommunicating because they both have their own personal experience on what their personal experience of being threatened was. Steve is talking about being threatened too harsh using his own personal reference. Harsh is reading what Steve is talking about using his own personal reference. So when you have two separate personal references that don't look the same to each other, trying to have a conversation and it's over a text message, good luck. You are never going to align. You guys aren't going to get on the same page.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that it was more of a miscommunication than anybody lying or trying to misrepresent anything. That's very good faith of you.
It's not good faith. That's reality. I'm in sales. It happens every day.
No, you're right. It does happen every day. I miscommunicate all the time.
Every single day. Like literally 95% of the time, when something is wrong, it is because there is a miscommunication.
Yeah.
So, and that's just real life how it is. I would tell you guys, if I thought that there was something shady going on, if I truly thought that Harsh was doing something really shady and trying to bring this up to get clout, I would say that. If I truly thought Steve was doing something shady, I would say that. But you guys, I do not think so. I think that, again, going back to, they are talking about being threatened. That is a very emotionally charged topic for both of them. And Steve being threatened does not look like Harsh being threatened. So how are they going to relate to each other when they're talking about two completely different things?
How do you know that their threats are totally different?
You don't, but how do you know they're the same?
You don't.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll let, Harsh show what he's going to show tomorrow because it seems like he's going to put out a public video tomorrow and, see where it goes.
Yeah.
I saw Plumbing said you should get a soundbite that says I'm in sales.
I should.
You for real should. That's a
Yeah.
wonderful idea.
I should.
Hmm.
Yeah, I see some people talking in here saying neither of us know. We don't need to know to talk about it.
No.
It's a think tank. We don't know anything we talk about. All right, so going into fog data and the topics that we covered tonight in the yes, I sell cell phones at Walmart. That's what I do. Okay, so fog data. Let's get into this. Where were my pictures that I saved? Okay. All right.
Okay. So if you didn't watch the premiere, fog data science essentially is background app data that is so when you your phone, you have the weather app, right? And it records your location and tells you, what the weather is in the area you're in, or your GPS app, or any app that uses your location. You have to accept location services for that app. You have to agree to the terms and conditions when you press that button. And what a lot of people don't know is that you are agreeing to that data being sold to anyone they want to sell it to. all of your data, your location data, goes to a data broker. That data broker will sell it to anybody. Doesn't matter who it is, as long as they got the money to buy it. Now, where fog data science comes in is they buy up all that data. So much data. Like, I think it was, what was it, 250 million devices, or was it billion? I can't remember. I'll pull my notes
This
back up.
picture says billions. I
Billion.
would assume billions
yeah.
because we have hundreds of millions of people in the US, and each person on average in the US has roughly 7.8 devices. So roughly 8 electronic devices. So what does that come out to? I mean, I could
What are you trying to figure out?
I'll figure it out. So we have 33
Well,
33.331.9 times 7.8. Okay, yeah. So in the US there are 2,588,820,000 network connected devices. That's an average, but yeah. So that's how many devices there are.
okay. So they you made me forget my spot. Okay, so they take all that information, all those data points, and they put it into their nice little software, okay? Then they sell this service to law enforcement. So if law enforcement have a crime, okay, that they, like, say the Idaho 4, that's what we're going to use this example for. They have the Idaho 4 case. So they go into their little fog data science database that they have a contract with, or maybe the FBI has a contract, which there are federal agencies that have contracts with them. There's 18 total agencies across the US that have a contract with them so far that we know of. They can, like, one police agency could totally go and use one of the other agencies' databases or something like that. So they go into it and they're like, we want to see all devices that stop by this house regularly, or on the night of the crime for the past like 6 months or 3 months. And they see one phone that keeps coming back to the home late at night, over and over and over. But that phone was never there before, like, those previous, like, 3 months to the crime. And they're like, interesting. So they look at that device's history. They do an individual search on that device and see, okay, they go to WSU, they go to this apartment complex, and, they go here, and they can very easily, they can use credit card information. Just knowing where you live can know who you are, have your identity. Now, if you're questioning, is this against your Fourth Amendment rights? Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah, but you got to clarify that it's not legally stated yet.
It's not. There is no legal precedence. There's no laws surrounding this. It's, like, pretty new. That has just been uncovered by some privacy agencies or something like that. And they're asking those questions. Is this okay? So Fog Data Science claims that they are not violating your rights because they're not giving over any personal information. They don't give a name. They don't give addresses. They're just giving all your location points and how many people go to the same workplace, the same grocery store, school, your house. How many people have the same route you do at all? Like, who? How many people do? Probably none. Maybe one.
Yep. Talk about the 4 data points. I think that was really interesting that they could identify you to the T with only 4 of those.
Yeah, so I think it was 95%. If they only had 4 data points, 95% of the time they could identify who it was.
And 4 data points is like you getting up in the morning, driving to work, driving to the gas station, or getting up in the morning, driving to the gas station, driving to work, and then going to eat somewhere for lunch. Those 4 data points, they would be able to identify 95% of the people of who they are. Because this fog data science company does not include names, and that's how they get to say that their data, or they're privacy conscious. They're privacy conscious because they don't include your name, but 4 data points and they're able to identify you.
Now, the fact that Brian Koberger was in cloud forensics started making me question, would he know this? Would he know that if he were stalking the house 12 times, that they don't need cellular towers to do that? They only need background app data, and it's all in a database tied up all pretty with a bow, where all they got to do is like search it, and they got all of your locations.
Yep.
That it's that easy for
Yeah.
investigators to know what devices are around that home, and when and where they lay their head at night, where they go to school, where they go to eat, everywhere they go. Would he know that?
Yeah.
And why would he ever take his phone with him to do the stalking if
Yeah.
he's in cloud forensics? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I see the concern there. And while Malia is talking, I'm trying to stay up on any questions and stuff you guys have. But just to be super clear here, the connected devices don't need to have a connection to Wi-Fi. They do not need to have a connection to a cell phone company. Okay. There are other ways that devices communicate. That's funny you said Skynet. It's kind of similar. So there are other ways, depending on your settings, that devices communicate with other devices around them, which then offer data points. And what I mean by that is, let's say you went to a party, okay? You were feeling frisky and you wanted to go, do whatever we do at parties, and you go in there and you had an argument with somebody, and you're like, you know what, I don't want to talk with this person. I don't want them to be able to call me. I don't want nothing. So you put your phone on airplane mode, which you've just disconnected with the network. You turn off your Wi-Fi so you can't have Wi-Fi calling, so that nobody can call into your phone, and you go into this party. Okay, well, because you're at a party with a whole bunch of other people and your phone is on, and because you had certain agreements when you downloaded certain applications, you can still be tracked to that area with your phone on airplane mode, with your phone's Wi-Fi turned off, and it is constantly communicating with other devices around you via Bluetooth and other background data connections. When you have an antenna is always being an antenna. I say this all the time with cameras and microphones. When there's a microphone on something, it's always a microphone, you guys. Literally, the only way to make sure that it's not being a microphone and recording, or it's not being a camera and recording, is to unplug it totally, completely. That is the only way. Now, what's the important part in those situations is this data being recorded? That's the important part, because if it's always being a microphone, or always being a camera, or being a phone, who cares, right? But is it being recorded so it can be pulled up later on by somebody, an investigation, something of that nature? And you just got to make sure, because in that situation, like we're talking about with the party, you're still creating data points because of your applications that could potentially be running in the background, depending on your settings in your devices.
Yeah. And I really think that even if his phone was turned off that night, which, being in cloud forensics, I seriously doubt he would have it in airplane mode, because you can absolutely be tracked in airplane mode. Even if he turned it off that night and we don't have data from that night, the stalking would be, if they could prove using this, which I don't think you'll ever see it in court as evidence, never, This could be another reason for the parallel construction we were talking about, a few episodes back, is
Agreed.
that this is the original lead, that they saw that his device was near the
You remember
house.
the Russian?
The Russian hacker.
Yeah.
Yes, anybody can buy this data. Anybody.
Anybody.
It does.
Yeah.
Anybody around the world can go to one of these data brokers that's has your
Yeah.
location data, yours,
We-
mine, everybody's.
We just wanted to see. We went on there and bought a subscription, and it's super easy to see it. So we could see everybody's that watched our videos. Kidding.
It's pretty scary. One interesting thing though is that, isn't it weird that the Gonzalez family said that they thought maybe Kaylee had a stalker. And then the police looked into that and said there was no evidence of Kaylee ever having a stalker, but then go on to write a PCA saying Brian Koberger was stalking them.
I know. I know it.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
Why are you saying that? You said there was no stalker.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree
I
with
sent you some articles in the email I want you to pull up.
Okay. But yeah, and this is stuff that I would deal with all the time, you guys, in the wireless business. So I always like bringing these topics up because if you guys have any questions around them, I will be able to answer them 100%. So
the PCA didn't say that they proved Kaylee didn't have a stalker. That was a police press release that said they looked into the stalker allegations and that they have found no evidence of Kaylee ever having a stalker. And then went on to write a PCA saying that Brian was stalking the house 12 times, that he went there 12 times beforehand.
yeah. Okay, which one do you want?
Yeah, we'll do this one first.
Okay.
So go back up. This agency, I think, is one of those agencies, Electronic Frontier Foundation, that is uncovering this. This article is part of EEF's investigation of location data brokers and fog science data. Can we zoom in on the text? Yes. Okay. So, they've acquired it from public records, but Americans are accustomed to hearing about how the NSA, CIA, and even FBI have illegally swept up massive amounts of data on people living in the US. But what about the state and local police?
Yeah. I mean,
What?
the state and local police, I think it's important in a situation which takes me back to, okay, I wanted to, when I was reading this, what kept coming up in my mind is Dr. Moore. When these local police stations or ISP are trying to say things like, the FBI was involved, are they possibly using some sort of FBI file or data or login to get this fog data science to, own in on a suspect? Because what's interesting is with the Dr. Moore case, Dr. Moore was around that area, just not at that time.
Right.
Which this is really important because even if they were using this, even if what I'm saying is true right now, it doesn't make it any less important. It makes it more important that this isn't used because now we could maybe, right, theoretically, have two different situations where it's been completely and totally, absolutely wrong, and you have police officers who didn't want to let it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just as an example.
So, what about state and local police? That the other interesting thing here, which I guess I forgot to emphasize this, is they don't need a warrant for any of this information because they have a contract with Fog Data Science, this company. and there's no laws surrounding this, they can get all of your locations and background app data without any warrants.
Without any
They can get your
warrant.
identity, they can get where you live, where you go to work, everything without a warrant. Just all they gotta do is search a location and see the devices that were around that location, or a specific device and everywhere it's went.
Yep.
That's the 2 type of searches they can do. So yes, Fog Data Science Company purchases raw geolocation data originally collected from apps people use every day on their smartphones and tablets. Those apps gather location data about where your phone is at any given moment and sell it to data brokers, who in turn sell it most often to advertisers or marketers who try to serve you ads based on your location. That's where Fog swoops in. According to documents created by the company, Fog purchases billions of data points from 250 million devices around the United States, originally sourced from tens of thousands of mobile apps. Then, for a subscription fee that many law enforcement agencies are happy to pay, Fog provides access to a massive searchable database where people are located. This means that police can open up their Fog map and do a number of things. They can draw a box and see identifiers representing every device within that geographical area at a given time frame. They can also use a device's ID to trace that device's precise location history over months or even years. Fog does not require police officers to obtain a warrant or other court order before acquiring this location data. Unlike communication service companies that hold their customers' location data and generally do require a court order. Likewise, many police departments that use Fog do not require their officers to get a warrant. This means that police, sometimes without a warrant, have the ability to track the precise movements of hundreds of millions of Americans as they go about their day. This is mass surveillance, often with no judicial oversight.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is what we've been preaching on this channel, this podcast for a while now, is that we think there needs to be much more oversight in a lot of areas within law enforcement. Is this allowed? In a word, no. The Fourth Amendment right protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures. I think this is important because somebody like you could be like, why does this matter? I don't care if law enforcement are tracking my location. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything. But I could argue differently. That, and this argues differently, that basically, where is it? There's just like a sentence I wanted to read from this, not the whole thing. What?
Just what we were talking about earlier, what a couple people have posted in the chat with Skynet, because Dragnet is like a way to, gather mass data points all at once, which is like Skynet. Yeah, for me, you were talking about my opinion, but I don't know if everyone that's on here watched the premiere and listened to the details that you went over in that. But my opinion on this is, I don't really care who knows where my location is. That doesn't matter to me. It's not a big deal. But what is important to me is people that do care about it, and there are a lot of people out there that don't want their location out there. They do not want that information out there in any way, shape, or form without their very clear and open approval saying, yes, I approve that you can have my location. So I don't think this is okay based on those people, even if my opinion is different. I think that in a situation like what we were talking about in the video, where it's important, is you brought up right away that, okay, well, what about in a situation where you have cops that are abusing this system? And in my opinion, this isn't necessarily the problem. What's the problem is that cops don't have body cam on 24/7. I think if cops had body cam on 24/7, they wouldn't be able to do stuff like this. But I still think that any personal information, including data points, should be required to have a warrant.
Yeah, agreed. And that's what they were citing right here is a case, Carpenter versus the United States, where the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that they need a warrant before they get historical location data or cell site location information. But still, they're still able to do this, use the fog data. So what are the dangers? Police use of fog is a major. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you reading?
Is a major blow to civil liberties in the United States. With a click and drag of a mouse, police can see the devices of every person who attended a protest, follow them home to where they sleep, and open up people exercising their constitutionally protected right to protest to more surveillance, harassment, and retribution. Police can also, for instance, track people whose devices have been inside an immigration attorney's office, a women's health clinic, or a mental health facility. Police could easily, with almost no oversight, use this tool to watch secret rendezvous between a journalist and their whistleblowing source.
Oh, that's shady.
Not to mention that law enforcement officials have often abused such powers for malicious reasons.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I totally see it in that example. I
Yeah.
got it. That's not okay, right? Because that clearly breaks multiple of our rights and amendments, and the freedom of speech, being able to not have that information out there free for all, and a whistleblower. I mean, crazy. That's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. They give an example here. So this type of surveillance also makes people who live and work around heavily police areas more vulnerable to being regarded with suspicion by police. If you happen to be next door to a pizza shop that got robbed or took a coffee break near graffiti, police could easily see your device located near the crime and recommend you for more surveillance. So you could be on their radar just because you were near a crime you had nothing to do with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the warrant needs to be required, because that's not okay that they could, through these data points, identify you when there's no evidence whatsoever. That this is literally what happens when
this is 1984 type stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, more oversight in certain things is good, though, because I think that a fix to this is body cams 24/7, because cops would not want the fact that they're doing these things out in the open. So if you have body cams 24/7, that means that those actions are going to be out there for everyone to see, and I think that would deter it. I really do.
Yeah.
I think we need police officers to have body cam 24/7, in my opinion.
Did any of you knowingly hand your data, your location data, over to the police? Any of you? Did you know about this? Because that's what that's how they exploit this, okay, this loophole, and that's where this is talking about this. So they claim their product is made of data willingly given by people, but people did not hand their location data or geolocation data, which is incredible location data, okay? Like it's a blend. We went over it before in the GPS cast report is in whenever we talked about GPS. We talked about geolocation. Data over to fog or the police, willingly or even knowingly. Rather, they gave it over, for example, to a weather app so they could see if it will rain in their town today. When they downloaded the app, they may have clicked a box purporting to grant various so-called consents, but no reasonable person expects this will result in the app tracking all of their movements. The app developers selling the sensitive information to a data broker and police ultimately buying it. And you know, the price is not like that much either. It's actually pretty affordable in the long run. So they also claim their product is privacy conscious because it doesn't contain personally identifying information like your name or your phone number, but like literally where you live. So how can you not say that that's not private identifying information? The police looking at a dot representing you on a map may not know your phone number or your name, but when they follow the dot to the place where you sleep at night, suddenly they have your address. A decade ago, researchers found that 4 spatiotemporal points were enough to identify 95% of the 1.5 million people whose movements were tracked in a 15-month set of phone mobility data. Literally 4 data points were enough to identify 95% of 1.5 million people who were tracked for 15 months. Crazy. I thought that statistic was that was pretty wild to me. That literally just you going home, going to work, going to the grocery store, pick up your kid from school, those 4 locations that you go probably on a daily basis, or a friend's house, are enough to identify you. They'll know exactly who you are. That was that stat right there.
What?
That stat you were talking about the 4 data points, identifying 95% of 1.5 million people who were tracked over 15 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does Fog have your data? For sure, most likely. If you have consented to app location tracking, then probably, most likely.
Yeah.
It says, how do you stop it? So if you have downloaded a third-party app on your smartphone, so the answer is yes. Assume the answer is yes. If you live in California, you can submit a right-to-know request under the California Consumer Privacy Act to Fog's data source. Yeah, Ventel.com. Yeah. We're posting it in the chat. The link. If you would like to do that. The most effective thing is to lock down data sharing on your mobile device. First, you can disable ad tracking and the mobile ad identifier, which allows data brokers to tie tranches of data. Oop, why did I do that? To your individual device. Here are instructions for Android and iOS. Let me see what that looks like. Okay, we'll post that too, because I'm sure all of you are like freaking out. How do I get rid of this? There's that link too. Were we on this one? No. Which one was it? Now I'm lost. What? You just changed articles.
Then you needed to hit back. Stop.
I can hit back.
Okay. Share that one.
Okay. Second, you can I gotta share it. Second, you can try to limit how many applications on your phone have permission to collect geolocation data. For some applications, like those that give you driving directions, GPS data might be necessary, but for others, like daily cute dog pictures or a chess app, consider revoking its access to that data. But the biggest thing we can all do is put pressure on Congress and the states to protect our privacy. It's up to lawmakers to act fast, to flip the switch and forbid government entities from buying geolocation data sold on the open market. That was the most wild thing to me, is the fact that it's an open market.
Yeah. I think that consumer. So realistically, what is the quickest way to fix this? Okay. I don't want to get too far from the crime here, but what's the quickest way to fix this? Is consumer education is the quickest way to fix this. Consumer education will make it so your data stops being tracked. Okay. You guys know how to get in your settings and change those settings so that your information isn't being uploaded into this cloud data and this fog data. And that's immediate. Then on top of it, we need to also reach out to politicians to work on making sure this data isn't accessible without a warrant. without a warrant. I think this is incredible. I love this. And I see so much benefit here for marketing, or like in my profession, sales, prospecting, going out there and finding new customers and the best customers to reach out to based on some of their overall data points and things like that help a lot in my profession. And all these things are really great, but the issue isn't those corporations. The issue is law enforcement in these situations, getting a biased view of the data points and tracking a biased investigation to an unsuspecting and innocent person.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it's a problem. It's not good. So this article, I can link these in the chat when we're done. I just wanted to show this part where it talks about who is buying it. So this panoptic surveillance apparatus is offered to state highway patrols, local police departments, county sheriffs across the country for less than $10,000 per year. The records received by EFF indicate that Fogg has past or ongoing contractual relationships with at least 18 local, state, and federal law enforcement clients. Several other agencies took advantage of free trials of Fogg service. EFF learned about Fogg after filing more than 100 public records requests over several months. So I will yeah, link this because it's also an interesting article. I just don't want to.
Cold calls fight sales, not the data gathering. The data. I don't think this tracks cold calls as much as your location.
Mhm.
Yeah, I sell phones at Walmart, you guys.
And here's one other thing I want to say real quick is that it's near real time. They can basically track you in real time. There's probably only a very slight delay, which is wild. It's not just like where you were like, last week. It's where you are now.
Yeah, no, Danny. This service doesn't sell the data. It's already out there. And what it sell, like how to access this data is, and we can do it right now, is if we went to their customer portal, we sign up for a membership, and then we'll get a monthly allowance of data points that we're allowed to search through or research or investigate or whatever, and we just pay a monthly service fee to get that. I don't know if they actually have salespeople. They absolutely might, but I don't know. In our investigation, I didn't come across there being actual salespeople connected to this company. But yeah, but by selling phones in Walmart, I actually mean I'm the person that puts them on the shelf for people who sells phones in Walmart.
Yep, exactly. It's a very important job. So I don't want to bore the pants off everybody by reading this whole article, but this is one more thing that I want to mention is that the smartphone signals in Fogg's database include latitude, longitude, timestamp, and device ID. And the company can access historical data reaching back to at least June of 2017. This talks about the area searches and the device searches. And yeah, I'm going to link these articles now so you guys can go look into it yourself. But I was shocked when I read this and I immediately thought Idaho 4. If Brian did do this crime and he was in cloud forensics, what? That's a heck of a mistake to make.
And cold calls might be annoying, but I'm not worried about cold callers. I'm not worried about companies having our data as much as law enforcement. And the reason why is overall security. I will take an annoying phone call over an unjust conviction.
Yeah.
We're worried about law enforcement getting unjust convictions of people that look guilty on these data points, but they haven't actually done the investigation to find out if they are guilty. So the cold call stuff, I mean, yeah, I hear you, but cold calls will never stop, not in this capitalist country. There's a reason why I'm in sales, because it's probably the most secure job there is. But
So
I'm more scared of the police officers.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. Now the location advertising, I find it annoying. I don't really like it. But I always felt that way because I was like, gosh, like if they have my location, who else has my location? And now I know. Now I know. Literally anyone who buys it, including law enforcement.
Yeah, the law
So
enforcement stuff has to
yeah.
stop, because law enforcement has to follow rules around our personal data to be used in investigations. To me, that is just it's shady. It's a really shady situation. It's a really crappy way for our police officers to get convictions. And if I'm being honest, every conviction that they've ever gotten using this and they didn't have a warrant, like, shame on you. I don't see that as keeping our community safer. I do not see abusing systems and exploiting gray areas as keeping our community safer. I see you as being a part of the criminal element and entity adding to the problem. And I'm pro police. I am, will 100% back our police officers. And I like the fact that we have police officers, and I want our police officers there. And I don't want them defunded. I want them more funded, but I want more oversight also, because police officers have this weird idea where, you know, they think they are that badge. They aren't. You're just the hot feet that are filling the shoes right now for that position. But really, the public owns you when you're wearing that badge. And that's how it should be. And that's not how it's being managed currently.
So Amanda just said that my microphone's picking up like the P word very heavily. We don't have pop filters on these mics. We do on the other podcast. But
Yeah, just angle it away from
how?
you.
Away from me? Like that?
Yeah. So
Is that good?
So wherever you're facing, you're not directly towards it, like
Okay.
this.
Is that better?
Well, if it's in your
police.
way to blow on it, then it's still
Police. 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 Does it sound better now?
I mean, it's still in your.
No, it's not, because I'm
Okay.
be
It's to the
facing this
side.
way. And if
Okay.
I do face
Cool.
this way, I'll just turn it, I guess.
Cool.
But hopefully that's better. Sorry if that was super annoying the whole time I was reading. But thank you, Amanda, for letting me know.
Yeah, I hope you're right, Danny. I hope that Brian Koberger would have made this mistake, but there's a lot of evidence that goes against that. So when we go back and look at this right here, okay? So and remember, for you guys, I want Brian Koberger to be guilty, because if he's not, what are our police doing there? How do we still have a horrible murderer out in our streets? You know what I mean? What is going on? There's problems there. So I hope he's guilty, but I hope they're able to prove his guilt is the angle that we're hoping for. Now, he is a cloud forensics expert, okay? Cloud forensics expert.
It's the top of the pyramid.
It is the top of the pyramid. In order to get to that, you start at the bottom, okay? So he would have a full range of understanding of devices. Maybe not at the length I have, but at least the operating system's background and technology understanding of a network, the basics of how it connects and what data and details go through that network to these nodes. Now, these nodes are essentially data transfer stations, or they can also be data storage, from what I've heard. And then that goes to the cloud storage. That cloud storage is what Brian Koberger is an expert of. However, do I hope that he was, if Brian Koberger's the guy, do I hope he was so caught up in his desire to do this heinous, horrible situation that this slipped his mind? Absolutely, I hope that. Do I believe that's possible? Not so likely, but I hope so. It just seems we have a guy who's going for his doctorate degree, okay, with a specialist into cloud forensics. So in order to be a cloud forensics expert, you have to understand cloud computing and cloud storage very thoroughly before you could even get into the forensics investigative aspects of it. Now, I would consider that, depending on how many years you have under your belt, an expert. Does he only have 3 months under his belt? I don't know, but even if he did only have 3 months under his belt, I still believe that he would at least have the knowledge to know about the devices, right? Um,
I think also having one of your minors be in cloud-based forensics, that would mean you have to probably have some kind of interest in tech, meaning you already have some understanding of it somewhat.
yeah, yeah, and remember, you guys, when I was doing my commission of the crime, I would have took my phone. I would have either took my phone with me, depending on the details of the crime, or I would have left my phone at home. Depending on the circumstances of the situation and what those circumstances were. If I had been to that house before, I would already have a history of being on those towers in that area, picking up other aspects of it. I would be able to control what my settings are to the nth degree to make sure everything is exactly how I want it to be in my settings. And I would take my phone with me. Now, that's with an understanding of how to make sure that it's not being tracked at that minute, making sure it's not connecting to anything to verify the exact specific time frame and or location there. And that would be with the knowledge of where the towers were, which I personally would have looked if that situation was ever real, which obviously it never would be. But I mean, looking at it from a real point of view and perspective. Now, the only other thing is leave the phone at home completely within your normal schedule. So like if I was going to a house that I had never been to before, within the idea of how the mainstream narrative has Brian Koberger doing it, if I had never been in that home before, then I would have left my phone at home completely to look like I was doing the same thing that I did any other night.
Yeah, I mean,
And I would have made sure all my settings were on so that the background app data was running, so that I was connected, so that I had, everything I needed to have connected. And yeah, probably turn on a YouTube video that's 5 hours long and let it play, plugged in with all my location background app data settings turned on.
yeah,
So
yeah, that's a good idea.
it just would depend on the circumstances of the crime. And I understand I was in technology and wireless for, 10, 15 years, even though I'm only 29 and will never be older. But I I don't think you would forget to do this is where I'm going with that. Regardless whether you have 1 year of experience, well, maybe not 1 year, because I probably didn't even understand these things for at least a couple years because of how much information it is and how harsh that learning curve was. But once I did understand it, I would say within the first year of fully understanding the system and network and how it works, I think you would have the same level of importance into controlling that device and its background connections as you would for somebody who's been in this industry for 15 years. So, yeah.
I was just zoned out for a second. But yeah, no, yeah, thanks for letting me know about the peas. I'm not embarrassed by it or anything. I mean, it's an honest mistake. So,
I would say yes,
pretty pink princess.
it's a privilege to get older for women. right? Women are like wine. They get better with age. Rawr.
Does that mean you're into cougars?
No. Okay, so going into yeah, I do wear a suit and tie to stock cell phones at Walmart and for people who sell them. So, what that would be so funny that somebody would stand out. Imagine going into Walmart and you see someone stocking the shelves that has like, a shark skin suit on. Um, so going into possible devices that can add to this, there's a lot.
Okay, so what could add to it?
I mean, I think the obvious ones, okay, let's cover the obvious ones is cell phone, is tablet, is computer, is anything inside of your home, which could be like we talked about the other day, the wireless TV, um,
Wireless TV?
I'm sorry, wireless refrigerator, the refrigerator that
A
has
wireless refrigerator?
yep, like network, wireless network. Bam, there we go. Okay, so the refrigerator that connects to a network, it has a chip in it that communicates with the network or your Wi-Fi or at-home network that is connected to an application that allows you to look inside your fridge through this application. That is a random device that you wouldn't think of that would be sending background data to these data hubs. Now, obviously, a refrigerator isn't going anywhere, so it's only going to have that location. But are we sure that another company of data suppliers isn't selling other additional background data? The fact that there's background data at all to buy, I think it shows that there's potential for additional background data, like a recorded conversation. Remember in the very beginning of the stream, I said microphone's always a microphone, right? So if it has power to it and it's plugged in your phone, a microphone is always being a microphone. And it doesn't matter if it's not being recorded, but it it doesn't matter if it's not being recorded, but if it is being recorded and sent through these fog nodes, that's important. That makes a big difference. Now, some other ones are smart TVs, are the network at the college. The network at the college, I think, is a really, really, really big one that's important. And any of that background data, because we don't know what's on their network. We know their network has OS background data and information because during that update, during the time of the crime, we saw one of those devices that was connected to that network. You could see that device connected to the network. So that's interesting. Apple Watches, smart watches, cars that have chips in them. One of the things that my team used to sell are those little car devices that plug into underneath the dash that give your car its own network, its own data connection and Wi-Fi. Those can add to this. What else we got?
Thermostats, apparently.
Yeah, thermostat.
I mean, it looks like any kind of health device, like, what is this trying to say right here? Because it has a little health link. Like, are they just saying health devices that track things for health? Because isn't that like your watches?
I mean, it could be your watches. It could also be like a life alert
Oh, okay.
or something of that nature. I know there are also other ones that are little phones that have, emergency call for elderly. There are all kinds of devices out there. So, yeah, I think all that information is really, really, really good information. And I think that it captures a whole lot more than we realize it captures.
Hmm.
The cars, you guys, there is a microphone in cars. I mean,
A lot of cars now, yeah.
the BMW has a microphone in there, and if something doesn't seem like it's going right, like your car is stuck or you get into an accident, someone will come over the microphone and talk to you. Are you okay? You know what I mean? It's a two-way microphone, and they're able
Wait,
to track you.
why would a
So,
soccer ball have a Wi-Fi system?
oh, not sure.
That's wild. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But that's interesting thinking about the things that can add to it. I guess that's kind of like I was talking about with the credit card. Like if you are out and around town shopping, okay, and they're tracking your location, okay, they're looking to see where you went that day. And then you made a purchase at one of your stops, like, okay, you went to a store and they check with that store if you made a purchase and they find your credit card, boom, they know who you are. Like, there's a lot of other things that can connect to this. Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Mhm. Little pocket trackers.
Yeah. These the smart tags, the Apple tags, these will have all kinds of data in it, and these are even data sources that some people don't know about, right? And that is one downside of it, is that, you know, let's say you're in a relationship and there's some kind of jealousy going on or something like that. This is very easily slipped into a glove compartment. This could
Oh,
be
yeah.
easily slipped into the fold of a wallet. You know what I mean? Like and these track everywhere. Now let's look at the downsides of these.
Or sewn
These
into a pocket.
sewn into a pocket. I mean, you would have to take it out all the time when you wash that, but
Put it in their
say
coat.
you were a serial assaulter and you wanted to track where someone's going. Could this go somewhere on a car? You know what I mean? There's also some really dangerous things to these as well. And I know that a lot of people have brought up concerns around them, and I think they're very valid concerns, honestly.
Well, now knowing that anybody can buy that app location data, anybody?
Yeah, but not anybody can identify you. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that if we showed what the data is that you can purchase, it's not like people would be able to take that data and then you would have to say, okay, well, let's pull all the data that ends in 91237, okay, and then you have all the 91273 data there, and then you are able to identify that. You then have to go into a system and try and figure out whose specific route that is, which one then give you some kind of name, right? Like there's a lot more to it that marketing people or sales companies that use it for warm leads to warm their leads up. They aren't going to have that specific information. They're just going to have the data you need of the industries to target.
Okay. A hacker probably could do it though, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I could do it.
Yeah.
I think I could do it. There's a little bit of in-person evidence gathering that would need to happen, but I absolutely think I could do it. Yeah. You would just need to find those data points, and what I would look for is a job. So a repetitive tracking to that job, and then I would find what the time was, and then I would go to that job at that time and watch who walked in.
You
You
have a
know,
question.
unfortunately, people are very repetitive. We love our repetition. And a lot of times it's to our detriment, unfortunately. What's the
Thank you, Borg, and Stardust Angel had a question.
what if my alarm clock popped up in my Wi-Fi connections and it only had Bluetooth? Can you explain how I mean, the only thing I would think of is that it has Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's the only thing. Bluetooth is a completely separate system with completely different functions. So I would just triple verify that it doesn't have Wi-Fi attached to it.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It only happened one time. So, are you asking if somebody could, like, hack into it somehow?
Yeah, or
It would
maybe it
have to
was a
have
random device that was mistaken as the clock, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that's really
I'm
weird.
not sure.
Hmm.
It is strange. It's definitely strange.
Yeah,
Yeah,
weird.
hacking used to be way easier. Now almost every router and every device comes with some kind of built-in security systems because you're right. Somebody that just had a laptop, which at one time, laptops weren't in everybody's hands. They could just drive around and pick up random networks and then hard hack that network.
If you guys just hopped on recently and didn't go through the articles with us and talk about the fog data science, definitely rewatch like the past hour because have we been talking on an hour? Like probably
Yeah.
like an hour where we went through it all because it's insane and I think that every citizen needs to know it. And we linked some of the links where it talked about how you can remove well, not necessarily remove yourself, but know if you're within those databases, how to protect yourself in the chat. But I will go over to Discord and I'll link those in the Discord too.
Mhm.
In the investigations tab. That way it's, somewhere that it can be referred back to.
What I would suggest for security, you guys, is uh is targeting your router at home. So I would make sure all your devices hook up to your router and you get a really nice router. A router that doesn't allow foreign devices. I mean, I we have a couple here, and every device that pops up has to be physically approved, okay, before it can have any private information to it. So yeah, there's some benefits to that. And then when you're home in the area, I would only use that and do a little bit of research into some of the security because there's a whole lot that comes with that security by way of VPN services and multi-location hops and all kinds of stuff. But that's my suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to run out for a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah. But yeah, I think all this stuff is super interesting, you guys, and I think it's very usable information. I think it's really important information. Or Violetta, go to Best Buy so you can see a couple different types. Like when I'm going to buy something, a lot of times I will go to a store that has a good amount on them and not let myself buy something, not talk into it, not let myself get talked into it. So then I can get a thorough understanding of the ins and outs and everything. And then that gives you a baseline to look into a little bit further and do some online shopping and investigating. So hopefully that helped. When it comes to phones, though, it's going to be different for every manufacturer of device. I don't necessarily have anything on my phone that's outside of my manufactured security. It's just knowing how to use it, what to turn on, what not. Location services, I keep it all the way off everything, always, Always. Yeah. So make sure if you're just hopping on, you watch this video here, Idaho 4 Fog Data Cloud Forensics, Brian Koberger. After this, that's what we've been talking about in this true crime talk show. And I think it's, like I said, it's very good, usable data. And, it's just an interesting look into exactly what fog data science is. I'm not really sure why they call it science other than looking at the demographics and statistics of an area of people for marketing purposes. That's the only thing I could really think of. But it's really, really, really good information to know in these situations when you want to be able to control that. I also think that it's good information to know because we got to get to a place where I think police need to request warrants to get any of this information. And yeah, that's possible. Alien dog. So essentially you're saying turn a phone into a miniature stingray. Yes. If you know what you're doing. Um Let me see, what else did I have on here? Oh, burner phones. I can't believe I didn't talk about that. Somebody was asking me that question, and I said I was going to answer it in the True Crime Talk Show. So, burner phones. Somebody asked a crimes and burner phones. So I'm going to give an example of how they're able to connect that. Okay. And I think they did use the fog data in this case. So what they did in the Gilgo arrest of Rex Hewerman is they were able to locate where he was based on his burner phone. And this is how, okay? So he thought he had his device on airplane mode. He thought he had his device disconnected from the network and had his burner phone with him. He wasn't using his regular device, but he was using his burner phone to do anything criminal and crime related. But those two devices were in the same room, in the same area. And the FBI was able to prove that that burner phone was in the same area as his phone on 3 different occasions. All 3 of those occasions were around the same time as the crime, and they were able to compellingly get him in that way. So, even if you have a burner phone, it doesn't necessarily give you a workaround for your regular phone. That regular phone still gives enough information to confirm your location, even if you're using a burner phone. So in a situation like that, the only fix is not taking your personal phone. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
there's ways to figure it out. There's ways to prove this, other ways than you might not think. And the way they were able to do that is that burner phone was communicating with his personal phone. It was within range to make Bluetooth connection, Wi-Fi connection, background data communicate. Yeah. I thought that blew me away, that part in the investigation. I was like, "Man, finally they're using, technology in that way." I think it's incredible. I think as long as it's done right
Right.
with a warrant, it is incredible, and I will back it all day long. I think the fog data science is incredible. I don't think there's anything wrong with mass amounts of data storage and analysis when it comes to marketing and research. Where I have an issue with it is where they're singling out people, single persons in crime and trying to make it make sense to solve a case. It creates a biased opinion based on data points, and those data points are not 100% certain this is where you were at this time. like they'll be able to tell you're there, but how precise are they? I think that's important, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I
I
agree with
really
you.
think that's important. But I love technology. I absolutely love technology, and I am all for using more technology when it comes to investigations. I am all for giving the police technology for use in investigations, but as long as they have warrants. That is
Yeah.
the important part.
That is the important part, is the judicial oversight, to make sure, that there's good reason to obtain this information, because ultimately I do think it is private. I think where you go every day, where you live, where you go to work, where your kid goes to school, where your friends live, where you go every day, that data is private in my opinion. And that it should
They
only be able to be accessed with a warrant.
they do it without warrants every time.
Every time. They never get a warrant for this.
Never.
Never.
If they just wanna look just because, they can. That's how crazy this is. That,
Yeah.
in my opinion, is a problem.
Yeah, like I said, if you just are hopping on, rewatch the past hour where we go through the Fog data science company and, how they purchase all of this raw geolocation data through data brokers and sell it to the cops. And the cops don't need warrants to, find out who was around an area, identify those devices, and then do individual searches on those devices and see where they go every day. And where you go every day is going to be where you live, where you work, if you go to school. Um, and I was questioning, like, could this have been used in the Koberger case? Could this be a reason for parallel construction? Because I don't think we will see this in court as evidence. I don't think they would want to use it as evidence.
I agree with you. I think that it's a very good chance that this could be the parallel construction. Yeah, I mean, you can highlight that. How do police use IMEI numbers to track phones? So, for those of you that don't understand, an IMEI is essentially a VIN number for your phone. Okay, you know how your car has a VIN number and it doesn't match any other car out there. Well, a cell phone has an IMEI number and it doesn't match any other phone out there. That is the fingerprint to your phone. And that IMEI is also what gives your phone service to the network, along with identifies that IMEI with other connective services like data connections, Wi-Fi, things like that. When if you're a police officer and you want to get a location, it depends on the way you're going to get that location. If you want to do cell phone triangulation, then you would reach out to someone like I used to be, not anymore, but someone like I used to be when working in the wireless industry. Somebody that worked directly with businesses and government entities, and they would send an IMEI. We would do a search on the IMEI. It would pull up all the data that IMEI has communicated with the network with. Then we would be able to download that data and send it over. Then the police take that data and they will transfer that data over to the map, an actual map. And there's an in-person element for police officers to get triangulation where they have to go in person and connect to that tower directly and find out what is the variable for mistake. So every tower has a certain variable for mistake depending on how far away you are from the tower or how close to the tower you are, and that has to be factored into your problem when you're creating that triangulation. That's the normal way that they do it. Now, you can also go into services like this, and that same IMEI could, depending. Okay, more than likely it's the SIM number that you're going to see on the fog data, but it could have an IMEI. I know that when they turn on Stingrays, they get the IMEI, the device ID number, or AKA VIN for your phone. And they can again just start that process and go from there. I hope that answered.
Yeah, and I think it was a good explanation. None your business. I think they need a warrant to use the data, but this allows them to look before they decide what warrants they need.
Correct.
So yes, they do all of their investigative work as far as locating your device and identifying who you are using this service, the Fog Data Science service. And then when they start to build their case and build that documentation, they would then go to these individual companies and request their background app data to make it look official.
So it's cheating on a test.
We see that in the Koberger case, them requesting all this background app data. Now, granted, I think they would still request that even if they didn't use the service. So I don't necessarily think it's proof of anything that they asked for all of that, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is what creates parallel construction, because they don't want this information out there in the general public and population. They don't want you guys to know this. And that's where my problem is, because look, our justice system and police officers in general, how it used to work is, in order to look into your personal information, right there. Yes, you. Your personal information, they would have to gather enough evidence to get at least a compelling enough argument to go to a judge and get that judge to sign off on a warrant. That judge would look at that evidence and say, oh, okay, so you have an eyewitness that places this person in this area during that same time of the crime. Okay, yeah, I'll sign off on this warrant so you can pull their cell phone data and triangulate to see if they were there during that time, and if they were at that other location during that time, and that third crime during that time. Now, if there wasn't a compelling enough argument, like, hey, judge, we think this guy did it because in 5 years ago, they had a crime that was kind of similar to the crime that we're investigating right now. And we think that he could have been in the area because he wasn't at his house during that time. We don't know where he was, but he wasn't at his house during that time. So because of those two things, we would like to get a warrant. That judge would look at that and say, that could be anybody. Just because you don't know where he was doesn't mean he was here. Just because he did that crime 5 years ago doesn't mean he's doing that crime now. So no, I'm not issuing that warrant. And they would not be allowed to look into that data. So I think that this should be handled exactly the same, because technically this could be argued as private and or personal information, because it is creating a data source and or set directly from your device that you own and you purchased from your network that you owned and you purchased, creating this data from those two things. So I think the argument's there that we could lock this down with a warrant, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I wondered, because with how much you point at the camera, I was curious if people would start calling it out. Like, why are you always pointing at me?
Yeah. I'm watching our stream, so really I'm pointing at me.
Yeah, if Brian Koberger didn't know all of this, considering his chosen field of study, then he is not a mastermind criminal. And it really questions my me believing that he could have done this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like to accomplish this, I feel like it'd have to be pretty well planned, okay?
Yeah.
And you would have to know what you're doing to have no evidence of DNA and no evidence of cleaning products. There's no trail. There's no blood trail. There's no DNA trail. There's no hair trail that we know of yet.
Yeah.
Could
Kimmy,
it come out in court? Maybe.
Dude, those are crazy. I don't even want to get into what it is. It's just essentially a fake card reader, so people can get your card number or the check numbers. A lot of people don't realize that checks actually have check numbers, and those can be taken, but your check could still arrive and still bounce, but still lose money. And yeah, it's the fraudulency. But
Doesn't it help if you have one of those wallets that have it's like RFID scanner proof?
So that helps for RFID scanners. There are scan guns out there that people will walk around and have their hand in their pocket with a scanner, and it will pick up these chips and give that data to that scanner.
The little cute tap function your card has now.
Yeah, but so that won't help what we were just talking about there, though.
Oh.
The only thing that's going to help that is making sure you have a good bank so that when your card gets stolen, they quickly and trustingly, honestly, good customer service, take those charges off and send you a new card really quick, forgiving you.
So I used to have a really good bank because it was a bank for military service members and veterans, because I had some family that was in the military. And at the time I was living in California, and I had my credit card, like I just started getting thousands of dollars worth of charges, like just all of a sudden out of nowhere. And the only thing I could remember is I had just went out walking around downtown somewhere and used an ATM, which was like a rookie mistake, but I really needed cash.
Yeah.
And it was not like a official bank ATM either.
Yeah.
So really dumb. But what they ended up doing, because my card ended up getting stolen like 3 times more after that, and I couldn't figure out why. So I thought somebody had maybe got into my actual account online, because it just kept happening. Like, and I hadn't done anything sketchy again. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they sent me this little key fob that when you press the button, it sends you a pin. Like, so every time you use your card, the pin changes, and you also use the pin
That's
as
really cool.
a password online for your account. Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, I like that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it should be just standard.
Yeah, a rotating pin. Nobody
Well,
could
you
ever steal it.
Yeah, just download an app on the phone, and that is your PIN that
Yeah.
updates every couple minutes. So,
Yeah. Back then, I don't think apps were to the level they are now. There just wasn't as many of them. But yeah, that key fob was incredible. It was super cool.
yes, yes, yes.
I didn't even ask for it. The fraud department was just like, "Here, we got this like new thing. You should definitely try it. Since you've been hacked, your information has been stolen like 4 times already. You're definitely a candidate for it. So here you go."
Yeah.
I loved it.
And I just keep going back here to what we were talking about, where
Oh,
Uh,
Violetta has one.
another
Cool.
thing that just doesn't make sense to me is this right here.
Good night, Amanda. Good to
See you
see you.
later.
Good to see you.
Is him being a cloud-based forensics analyst student.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. You know what I thought earlier today? Was he trying to be like Dexter?
See, okay, so there is one part of an interview Steve did where, and we watched that together, I think, where he was like, he basically thought that Brian Koberger's motive for committing this crime was almost like an experiment of sorts,
Okay.
to see how, I forget the exact quote, but that was kind of the inference you could get from it, that he came to this little town and committed these crimes, almost as like his own little case study.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting, but I do feel like it's very obvious, and someone that's intelligent would know not to do that. So I think there's arguments on both sides. I think that if Brian Koberger gets proven to be guilty, okay, right? And I understand at least half of our viewers believe he's innocent. At least half, or I would say we have more viewers that believe he's innocent than viewers that believe he's guilty. And most of you understand how we feel about that. And I just can't commit yet without all the pieces. But if he gets found out to be guilty and the evidence proves his guilt, like clearly proves his guilt, I think the only option is that it was some kind of case study.
Really?
I think so. And the reason why, and as heinous as that sounds, you guys, I understand how ridiculous that sounds. I get it. It's almost tin hat in outer space worthy. I understand that. But there is no evidence of him having previous aggressive, violent crimes. That is rare. That is so rare. So rare. Normally, when you have somebody that can do a crime of this nature, it is what's it called? Precluded or whatever, or preceded with tons of other violent escalating crimes. We don't see that with him if Koberger's the guy. We don't see that. He doesn't have any other charges of violent crimes on his record. He doesn't have anything escalating on his record. And if he did do those things and never got caught, and he was that much of a genius from the time he was, just coming out of puberty until now, he probably wouldn't have made the mistakes that we're seeing in this crime. You
Yep.
know?
Mm-hmm. So last time we did this poll, is Brian Koberger guilty? 34% said no. 32 said they were waiting till trial. 17 said yes, he's guilty. 15% said involved but didn't commit murder. And then the poll was 188 votes. I said the next time we would do that poll is after the trial, but maybe it would be interesting to see how it fluctuates, like every month.
Eh,
No?
I don't think so.
No? I'd be interested to do it when we have a lot more
Maybe-
viewers on, like when we
Yeah, we'll-
hit the 400s and stuff.
We'll do it on a Sunday when we have like a whole bunch of people in here. But yeah, I think that it's more important to actively seek the truth than make a commitment on the end result. I don't think anybody can give an end result. You can make a best guess, but it's just that, and it's not objective. That's a subjective answer. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's why I included I'm waiting until trial, involved but didn't commit it.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested in doing it, you
Yeah.
know, but
For sure. Then, if you want to see, we can, of course, do it.
I'm curious how it fluctuates as information comes out, like as, the trends in society and online change. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking of answering two different questions. Because it's interesting, but I'm more interested in learning. I want to learn as much information as I can about this, and the end result of whether somebody thinks he's guilty or innocent, in my opinion, right? Just it doesn't matter. That's like an outside floating perspective of what we think and or are guessing that end goal could be, when everybody knows there's not enough information to say he's guilty or to say he's innocent. And if somebody out there says there is, they're just lying, probably because they want to feel more right. We don't know yet. We do not know. I think the whole point in being able to get to the point of being able to have a firm yes or no answer is by continuing to dig into these. And I understand we're going to cover topics too that we aren't going to see in this case and are not going to be used in this case, but that's equally important. I think that information that is given that doesn't have to do with a situation is just as important as a compare and contrast as information that could have something to do with that specific information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But that's
Yeah.
just my personal opinion.
Turn polls into shorts. That's a good idea, Alien Dog. Thanks. I'm kind of interested in just, I don't know. I might put a little bit more into that. Like just writing down I don't know. When I do these polls, writing down the information that's come out, like, or what people have been talking about the past, week or something when that poll was taken, kind of thing. But yeah. If you guys have any feedback on it or suggestions, let me know. If you're curious and knowing about it, and me actually doing it, and would like to see the results of it, especially once we get to the trial and after the trial when we actually have a verdict and looking back on it, definitely let me know.
Yeah.
Um,
That's interesting you say that, Kimmy, about being an outlier when it comes to, like, if somebody thinks they're innocent or somebody thinks that they're guilty, and that's one of the psyche behavioral aspects that I've questioned before is why, and not you, obviously, you are an active and avid part of the community, and we want people in the community that believe he's guilty, and we want people in the community that believe he's innocent. But for whatever reason in this crime and case, I feel like there's a lot more people out there that believe he's guilty that are less willing to have conversation and or listen to conversation about the possibility of him being innocent, when there are people out there that truly think he's innocent and are willing to listen to the possibility of him being guilty. I'm more, neither of those is right or wrong. I'm more curious about why it seems like that is.
I agree with you.
I don't know why it feels like it's like that, but it makes me curious why.
Well, I think it's different for different people. Like that was a question. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but um I'm curious. I think it, like I said, it's different for different people. Like, some people don't like when you question the police, and their investigation. And then some people, I think when they have a belief, they don't want to hear things that are outside of that belief.
Mm,
Like when you start saying something that makes sense and they don't like having their viewpoints questioned for whatever reason. I think there are people like that.
hmm.
Um, it strikes a nerve.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I just wonder why it feels like it's more likely to strike a nerve with someone who believes he's guilty versus someone who believes he's innocent.
Well, I think there's some people who believe he's innocent that do get it does strike a nerve with some of them, not as many as people who think that he's guilty.
Right.
That people start saying things that, imply his guilt.
Yeah.
That there are some people out there that get
That
offended by that.
and that difference in percentage is what I'm curious about. Not like I understand the why behind it. I understand that there are people out there that don't like having their ideas questioned. I get it. But why does it seem to attract people to that belief system that are more likely to believe he's guilty is where I'm going with that. Is there some kind of social construction creation that has caused people that are more likely to believe he's guilty become less likely to accept and be willing to take part in think tank conversations and a willingness to continue looking at, questioning, and or changing their opinion?
Okay, so here's what I think it is. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. What I think it is that people who think Brian is guilty are people who very much follow like the facts put out in the documentation, put out by the police. And they're like, those are the facts. That's what they have. This is what it is. And then people who think that he is innocent or could be innocent are people who always question what they're told. When you tell me this is a fact, I'm not going to just believe you. I'm going to look more into it and are more open-minded in ways for that to be disproven than people who believe the facts that are being presented to them. And I think there are people like Kimmy who will look deeper into those things but still believe them.
Well, yeah,
But
there's nothing wrong believing those things. I just
no,
think
there's
that,
not. But I think that, and I'm not talking about Kimmy here specifically. I'm talking
yeah,
about
for
more
sure.
the people who are closed off to talking
Yeah.
about it are people who aren't as open-minded and can't like I don't know, I don't want to put anybody down, but they just aren't open to those possibilities.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't have an answer to it. I don't know. I have no clue. I have no idea. I couldn't come up with a reason of why socially I feel like that's happening. But I do think that uh anybody, right? It doesn't have anything to do with people that believe he's innocent or people that believe he's guilty. Anybody that is unwilling to look at other information and or ideas that question their current belief system are looking at whatever that situation is through, a keyhole, and unwilling to let the other information surrounding that idea in. Now why that's happening, I don't know yet. I want to dig deeper into it. But I personally haven't come up with a reason yet.
Well, that's why we get labeled, I think, as conspiracy theorists by people who think like that, is because it's almost like too much open-mindedness for them, for like possibilities. And I wasn't meaning to single Kimmy out there. Kimmy being here is a testament to her being able to think, tank, and question those things. I just want to say that real quick.
Yeah.
Because I think she is open-minded, very much so.
Yeah.
But there, like I said, there's just some people I think that can't be open to even talking about it or discussing it because they want to believe. Maybe it's the belief in something, that closes their mind to it. Like, I believe in the investigators. I
Yeah.
believe in what they've done, the work they've put into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe.
belief is hard to change.
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe.
Or their
Maybe.
belief on the world and how it works. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And I don't know, but I'm going to continue looking into it because the psychology aspects of any crime and or criminal is like the most interesting part of any of these topics to me. Like how a serial ender's mind ticks is, like a drug to me. I want to understand because it is so outside of the norm. It is so outside of the average person that I talk to every day. It's interesting, and I don't understand how they got from point A to point B, but I want to, and I
Yeah.
want to understand that. So,
Yeah, I know everybody I feel like there's a ton of angst, like let's get to the trial from every side of this case, except for the people actually conducting the trial.
yeah, the people that
They're
are
like, let's
involved,
slow this down as much as possible, while literally
right?
everyone else is like rabid wolves. Like, come on,
Yeah.
let's do this thing. Like, we want to know what happened here.
I agree. It's really strange. I don't it's weird. It's weird. Um but But yeah, I am going to post the links here. This is the membership link. Everybody, if you would like to join, come join in the fun. And I'm hoping it's tomorrow that I have that members video posted. It's just currently in editing right now and making progress. Now, if you would like to join the Discord's awesome, super fun, super free, and it's just a place where we continue that conversation um, with people that want to learn more, that want to figure things out, that want to figure out how 1+1 = 2 and have conversations about it and have fun doing it. And it will never cost anything. So I just posted that.
When we do the "Is Brian Koberger guilty? Did he commit the crime?" poll, I think I'm not gonna do them on stream. I think I'm gonna do them on community post and maybe share those to, like, social medias. Because I feel like that will be more well-rounded for more people to be able to join in, to really know what our viewers and community are thinking. Because not everyone has the time to watch the live stream and be here in real time and participate in the poll, or use some kind of third-party website to do it.
Yeah. And Amy, sorry you feel that way. Unfortunately, I don't think you heard what was said then, because it sounds like you think that I came at Harsh.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's definitely not what happened.
Amy,
so.
I feel like Brendan was actually nicer towards Harsh than I even was, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think I said a few things that I've changed my mind on since we talked about it, which is the point of the show. We think tank things out, and our ideas change a lot of times as we're, deciphering things and, throwing ideas out there. I know mine do, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and we do talk about other creators too. What we don't do is get involved in drama, and that's not what we did today. So
No, I think that Harsh is a good person with good intentions, and people are capable of making mistakes, but we haven't seen all the information yet. So
yeah, I'm not going to comment on it anymore. I was clear earlier, but I appreciate the input as always. All right. So I think I posted everything, right? Am I missing anything? Do I need to post the Twitter one more time? I think I do.
no, you guys can state your thoughts.
Yeah, of course.
You never have to be quiet about it.
No, never.
I appreciate all of your input about everything. Hot dog sales, baby.
Yeah, of course. That's my life goal. Yeah, there's nothing you guys can say that would offend us, but
No.
that comment does go against what we promote, because we do not get caught up in drama, never have, never will. And that comment made it sound like I came at Harsh sideways. So that is something that I had to correct, because that is not something we do. All we did is deduce, talk about, break down, and think tank what happened about that situation. And I feel like I was very clear about it wasn't shots fired. And nobody did anything wrong, in my opinion.
No, I think the main
Simple, just misunderstanding.
Yeah, I think our main point is we're not trying to like call anyone out or, get involved in drama with another creator.
Yeah, I'm just not willing to take sides.
Right.
So I'm not going to take Harsh's side. I'm not going to take Steve's side. We won't ever do that. That is getting involved in the drama. And in my opinion, I don't think either of them were wrong. And that's just being honest with you. I think it's a simple case of misunderstanding. All right. Did I post that?
Post what?
The Twitter.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. All right. Good to go.
Chapped hot dog sales gate. Jay
Yes.
Ray doesn't ever look at the screen out of pure fear.
That's why I do
Does
it.
Brendan make you cringe?
I hope so. That's why I do it.
Yeah, you literally hate you literally hate awkwardness and cringe, but then you do it to everybody else.
I know. It's not my fault if they are feeling awkward.
You said you're trying to make them feel awkward.
I mean, I'm not trying. Once I know that something makes you feel awkward, then I'm gonna do it just for you. Yeah, I'm not willing to go into the topics again with her. So if you guys hopped in late, just watch it earlier. It's really not that big of a deal. I think people are getting caught up in their feelings over it, and they shouldn't.
No, I don't think you should get it caught up in your
I
feelings about it.
I'm overly optimistic in any situation, you guys, and I don't think anything was done wrong. So I think that either situation, there's not a situation out there in the world that could not be handled better. Okay. I think that for whatever reason, they didn't understand each other. And you have one person saying that they did one thing and another person saying that's not what they did. Well, the only person that can say what they did is the person with the intent of doing that, right? And then you have the other person who's misjudging the intent. So who's wrong in that situation? Nobody. They're both under the assumption that what they thought was right.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Ian, prisoner of the chat, is tonight. We'll have to hit him up in Discord and ask him why he is not in his cage. But we gotta get him reined back in. Prisoners are supposed to be stationary. And yes, I did see Brendan roar at you earlier, and that was incredibly abusive of you
Mm-hmm.
to roar at
I
Jay Ray.
know.
But yeah, so I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I also want to say that real quick is that I feel like we didn't really get any new information in that. We knew that Dylan and Bethany didn't really want to testify. We knew that they lawyered up, which they should. You guys, they should have protection and be lawyered up. We have no proof of who was sending threats. We have no proof of threats. We just don't have any proof, which we always believe in verifying. So, also, I do not blame Dylan and Bethany for not wanting to take the stand because they're young girls. And I get that sounds like kind of messed up. You're like, why would they not want to take the stand? Like, these are their friends. Don't they want justice? You guys are witnesses. I don't think they should have the choice. I think they should be made to do it. But their lives have been scrutinized online so much. So much private information about their lives has been exposed, or that they felt was private, and they're really young. So, I mean, I get it. I get it. When they go online and they see all the things said about them, I understand why they don't want to take the stand, because they don't want to give people more of a reason to talk about them. It's mortifying, I'm sure, for them. Think about being a young girl, if you are a girl, or a young man, in high school, for example, or college, where your image is everything. You know what I mean? Your image matters so much to you. You're so self-centered that, a hair being out of place could be devastating. Anything that puts you in front of everybody and criticized is devastating. So I understand why they don't want to, but they should have to. So I feel like there was no new information even said there. Like, nothing was hard hitting there, even if that's what Steve was saying. And I don't blame the girls. I don't blame them at all. At 19, yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, you're still very image oriented for sure. Like, I mean, look at the kind of stuff they were posting on their social medias. Like, their image mattered to them a lot. So,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, and I understand. We don't have the background of what happened yet. The 8-hour time gap is something I have tons of question marks about. It looks shady. It doesn't look good, but we just don't know what actually happened yet. We don't even know if what was said in that PCA is actually like for real what happened, that she went into a frozen shock phase. That could have been a term used
Yeah.
to
They
generalize.
will have to testify. I agree.
Yeah, they should, and they should have to.
They're not going to get a choice.
No. They are adults, they're not babies, for sure, but they're still very young. And they still, because 'cause I'm not gonna call them, like, kids, like, they're not
I mean,
children,
the fact
but
of the matter is they don't have a fully formed frontal lobe, which makes their decision making skills hindered.
yeah.
You can compare, a child to a sociopath, literally, in the way that
Well, a
decisions
small
are
child.
handled, and because in a small child, without that frontal lobe development, all they know are to go after what they want, okay? And wants feel like needs because they don't have that frontal lobe. Now, a frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until they're late 20s, like 27, 28, 29. Some people can become, can go all the way to 30. So they're about 10 years away from that. And during that time is when we look at things that have a lot more importance to them than what they really should have, like image, like material things. And that changes their perception of life and how they see things going. So like it's the whole point in having, these rules that they have to testify, even though they don't want to. So the want doesn't matter. That's one of those things that could be abused to make somebody look bad, when who cares if they don't want to? If I'm being completely honest here, if I was in that situation right now at the age that I'm at, I wouldn't want to do it. I would feel obligated to do it. That's a very big difference. I would be hating it. I would not want to be up there feeling uncomfortable, knowing that somebody could ask like slanted, sideways questions that could look really bad, even though they aren't meant to be really bad. That's just the name of the game with court. And who wants to do that? I don't think anybody wants to, but I know that if I didn't do it, I would regret it. There's an obligation there. So I don't know. I just feel really weird in those situations where someone is like trying to make it seem like they're bad because they don't want to do that, when where it would change is if like they are called to do it and they don't show up,
Yeah, they
then I'd be
refuse
like,
or run. If they
I
refuse,
feel
yep.
definitely different about this situation now.
If they run from testifying, yeah, I would feel different. I think we need more evidence. The 8-hour time gap in itself, knowing that existed, isn't enough evidence for me to say that they were involved in any way or had like bad intentions with delaying the call. I think that what is talked about in that While Idaho Slept book is
Oh man,
interesting.
you're my
And
you're my favorite, Violetta.
and that Dylan may have grown up in some situations where there was some domestic violence, and that she may have thought possibly that Ethan and Xana were in a fight that night. That makes sense, that could have been what happened. Now, could it be something totally different? Could it be something shady? Could it be something, like I said, totally different but innocent? For sure. It could be. We just don't have anything pointing either way. We know there's a 8-hour time gap. We know we need answers about that 8-hour time gap. We do. We need those answers. The jury needs those answers. But I just can't. I can't act like they're bad people. They're really young, like you're saying. Their brains aren't fully developed. They're only 19. They are baby adults. Okay, that's what they are. They're baby adults looking to find their way in the world and know who they are. And there's even, I saw 25 was the age your prefrontal cortex develops, but they're showing some evidence now that it may not even be fully developed, especially in men, until 30. There's some scientific
Yeah,
evidence
I
showing that
know.
now, that
That's
it
why I
may not
said
be till
30.
30.
I know.
If they were a part of it, I hope that gets shown. Like the Chris Watts case, okay? Case is closed. But everyone that talks about that case sees serious red flags around Nicole Kessinger, the mistress. And there's some weird things there, like cell phone pings that we talked about in the only video we've done about the Watts case. And a video of it was a neighbor camera that picked up what looked like a girl with a ponytail. Like, yeah, there's some serious question marks there. She deleted evidence. So on her phone, like text messages and all kinds of stuff. That's huge question marks. But that we are never going to get answers to. And she was absolutely protected. If that ends up being an instance in this case where discovery comes out showing weird stuff like that, but they are protected for some reason, I mean, there's nothing we can even do about it at that point. If Brian is actually convicted.
Yeah, I don't know. I think all answers are right. Again, this is one of those things where I'm not willing to give a hard opinion because I can't have one. I don't have all
We
the
can't
pieces
have one.
for the puzzle. And I'm just not willing to say one way or the other. I think that every question around that 8-hour gap is legitimate, every single one of them. I think that somebody that's asked saying that it feels criminal, like they could be involved, yeah, that's fair. I totally understand and agree with that. I think that people that are saying like, how could you, they're just good kids, and they're victims of this situation, yeah, I agree with you, that could be, and there's no way to know any other way. So it doesn't matter. Both flips of the coin
Yep.
are right. And the only way that we're going to know one way or the other is once we get that information. It's questionable. There's something up there,
Well,
and there's information missing, because even if it was done honestly, then more than likely there has to be another element added to it. So explain, were you drunk? Were you in there with a guy? And for whatever reason, you don't want to come out and be open about it. Like, help this explanation along so that people can look at the situation and feel like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. Because currently in the state that it's in, it doesn't make much sense. So all answers are correct.
My only comment about what you said is that I don't think all things are right, because I think that if you are going to afford Brian Koberger innocent till proven guilty, you have to afford that to people you deem suspects in your mind too. So if you deem Dylan and Bethany as a suspect in your head, you have to also afford them that innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, in my opinion. So, I mean, I think there's serious red flags. One of the biggest red flags I could point out is that how could she go into a frozen shock phase after seeing this guy and not call for 8 hours if she had no idea what was going on? If she genuinely had no idea what was going on, as was stated in the While Idaho Slept book, essentially, that she thought there was just like a fight between Ethan and Xana, and she misinterpreted everything, then why was she in frozen shock phase?
Yeah.
Because the only way you can be in frozen shock phase is if you knew what was going on to an extent, at least. You may not know the full extent if you never left your room, but you would have somewhat of an idea. that people are getting hurt.
Yep. That's why I said all things are right. Anybody that says that, someone's opinion or critically thinking a situation is wrong, don't know what to tell them. Flawed idea, I guess. But you got to be able to chew on these topics, because creating a possible theory can justify a theory that's out there, but it can also help prove another theory wrong. So
Yep.
none of them are wrong. So again, it goes back to how do you expect to tell someone what 1,000-piece puzzle picture is when you're missing 800 of the pieces? You just can't do it. You can't do it. But we are going to be here, and we are going to be asking the questions, because these issues stand out. People have concerns with them. People have questions about them, and they deserve to be asked, So yeah, we appreciate all of you.
Yeah, I agree that I think it would have been kind of loud, but yes, we do appreciate all of you and all of your input, and think tanking with us on these lives all the time. I love it. It's so much fun. Even if the topics are tough, I like using my brain. So
Yes.
I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I hope you learned something about the fog data science. If you guys just hopped on or didn't see that part, definitely go back and the replay and watch it. Because, like I said, I think all of the public needs to know about that. That's incredibly important. And I'm going to go post it to our social medias. I'm going to share it in Discord so that those articles can be accessed anywhere on our socials. Because, like I said, I think it's important.
Yeah, good call out, Mike. I like that. Common sense is status quo thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, his other comment was interesting too, that critical thinking is the opposite of common sense. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
All right, you guys. So make sure you do all the podcast things and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. It helps us go a long, long way for becoming full-time true crime creators. And check out the True Crime Talk Show and Thought Riot podcast, the True Crime and Criminal Culture podcast. And come hang out with us next time.
Yes, everybody have a great night. Next time we'll see you is Sunday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on live. And yeah,
we will
have a great
see
weekend.
you later.
Bye.